Good evening. Welcome to the February 19th Select Board agenda. I'm John Martin. My left, Francine Tishman and Jim LeBrie, and Matt Rowland to my right.
Is your microphone on?
It is on. Am I not talking into it?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's being recorded and sent out live, so you can review it at a later date. Right now, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, first thing we have is appointments. And actually, we're going to combine three items because Lucy Dalton, our clerk, needs to be here to notarize all of them, and rather than keep her waiting through the whole agenda. First is bylaw, boy, that's different. Bylaw Review Committee, term to expire June 30th, is for Lucy personally. So we need to have a motion and a vote on appointing her.
I move to accept Lucy Dalton to the Bylaw Review Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2021.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Could I just,
Go ahead. No, go ahead if you want.
I'll do it later.
Okay. I got too many pieces of paper here.
You're bumping up 10 and 12.
Yeah, the quick claim deed and easement acceptance for acceptance of Quigley Road as a public way. Moving that up, so Lucy's here. The deed, you have the deed, Lucy? Okay, so we need to have a motion. It was voted at town meeting. We just need to sign off and it'll complete the process for the acceptance as a public way.
I'll make a motion, we sign off on Quigley Road.
Okay, is there a
I'll
second?
I second it.
Any discussion on that? Just a formality. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Lucy, if you want to, does it require just a chair or everybody? Okay, if you want to start it down with Jim, we can go from there. And also, the acceptance of the deed for 111 Glendale Road in Southampton. We will have a closing on that property on February 28th. But the attorney has asked us to sign the deed, so it's all in place. And that's the culmination of a lot of work by a lot of people to get that land into the town's portfolio. So we need a motion to accept the deed and sign it.
I'll make a motion to accept the deed for 111 Glendale Road.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
We all need to sign these?
Yep.
John, is the closing, is that going to be represented by our attorney Evans with this case? And
It would
also-
be Attorney Evans, yes.
And Ed Gibson or you, or?
Now, Ed
who?
Gibson will be there.
Okay.
If I'm available, I'll be
Okay.
happy to go. It's kind of like we need a celebration.
Just one? Oh, I mean, on that one, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one. There's that one. Okay. Okay, we have a public hearing for Eversource and Verizon New England to install one solely owned mid-span pole to be tagged 40/44E1M on the northwesterly side of Valley Road, approximately 900 feet westerly of the inspection with College Highway. So I'm calling the public meeting to order. And do we have the petitioner here? Hi. What's that? No, oh, for the poll? No, I asked for the petitioner, but the paperwork will be next. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Just want to identify yourself?
Yep, my name's Nick Riegel with Eversource.
Okay. You just want to explain where the poll's going and why?
Yeah, so right outside Valley Steel Stamp, They're putting up another building just past theirs for a storage building, and they are requiring three-phase to that building. So we're bringing three-phase up one span of Valley Road. So that's what the new pole will be for.
That's J&E Precision at Valley Stamp.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
J&E
The
Precision.
pole's going to J&E?
Yes, in front of J&E and Valley
Yep.
Road.
Okay.
Jim, is this part of the expansion, or the reason for it? Is this part of the expansion?
That is correct.
So is there anybody that wants to speak against it? Okay. So we're going to need a motion to accept it.
I move to accept the pole as located, as indicated here. Should I just read it?
No, that's fine. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. So now we need to have a motion and a vote to close the public hearing. Have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Rather painless?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming. Lucy, we need to sign those? Just me? Kathy, are you sure it's just a chair? There's multiple lines, so I want to make sure.
Oh, I'm not sure, I was just asking her.
Okay, so I'm gonna have everybody sign it, just so you don't have to come back. For the poll,
Usually write that in there, John, so I should check.
for a poll, yes. There's 2 copies of it.
There's none in the room for everybody.
Oh, put it on the side. Okay, we have reports up next. Jim, do you want to start down there?
Sure. I don't have anything to report on the planning board, so it's pretty quick there. And I was not able to make the assessors.
Okay,
That's all I got.
Francine?
Okay. The Master Plan Implementation Committee met, and I'm happy to say we're midway through the initial review of the original document. I know this is a very tedious, long process for you to hear about it and for us to do it, but we're going to be meeting with individual committees to get some sense of accomplishments, obstacles, and maybe some revisions to the plan going forward. Our next meeting is February 25th, and the public is invited. The next group is the Bylaws Committee, which has come back to life after some period of dormancy, I can say, just for a variety of reasons. But looking at the work that had been done up till then, we are 3/4 of the way through the bylaw revision. The last quarter, unfortunately, is the most complicated sections for us to be writing, so that will take a while. I'm not sure, I don't think we're going to have anything ready for the May special town meeting, but looking ahead and saying perhaps the fall, we should have a completed version for everyone. But as we go through it, we will be meeting with the different committees, making certain that they're okay with the changes that we're making and the updates. And our next meeting on that is the 21st at 1 o'clock here on the second floor conference room. Again, public welcome. What I would like to add, I appreciate the fact that Lucy has now joined the committee, but we're still down a member or so if you or anyone you know who's interested in going through some of the mechanics of how the town operates and functions, and is willing to dedicate a few hours every week, we would appreciate an addition. We do need help. Thank you.
Rini, do you have anything?
So Conservation Commission supported, actually, they were very helpful in the information that we were looking for in terms of whether we supported waiving the environmental impact study for the dam. They also submitted a budget to the town, a proposed budget. And just to let you know that there's volunteers that are needed to help maintain trails. We're going to have a spring appeal for volunteers, even 1 day a week, a half a day. I mean, during the season, it would be a big help for all of us to maintain the wonderful land that we're getting. John can report on open space. Council of Aging approved the budget also and submitted it, proposed budget, to the town administrator. They're considering areas to increase programming for seniors. They're looking into pickleball. They've been in contact with the Park Commission and also some intergenerational options. And then community preservation, Mark Reed gave an update on the Labrie Field project, the timeline and budget, the plan to also replace the Conant Park Pavilion roof, the Zipta barn, and also future options. The water department, Kurt Bogerly, came and gave some information about the land that the water department is trying to preserve on Primary Meadow Road because of the water recharged area. Tom Bashista came in, and the CPC approved funds through the administration bucket for signs designating Southampton as a right to farm community. And town meeting approved continued library funding for scanning of historical documents for online access.
Thank you. Matt?
Capcom has not met since we last had a meeting. Board of Health is meeting this evening. I'll get the minutes and report on that at our next meeting. And PQB, our last meeting, I was not present due to a conflict at work, but I went over the minutes, and it's regarding the PCFs and PRFs that we have later on.
Okay, thank you. FinCom met earlier today, very short meeting. We have some PCFs, PRFs to sign. They're down one member, so if anybody's looking to be on the Finance Committee and just before budget session, so it'd be a good time to get on. It's a heck of a learning lesson, right? Got some good folks on there. 2 of them are here. Just wanted to bring up, we had the special town meeting. Robert Floyd's back there. I just wanted to say, very good meeting. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think it went very well, and it went pretty swiftly. Now, town administrator report. Ed's not here, so he gave me the report, so I'll read it. We talked about Glendale Road already. It says, Board of Selectmen has received a letter in regards to the property which is in estate at 2 and 4 Woodmar Lane. The intent of the letter is to convert the 2 lots, which are currently in Chapter 61A, to residential use, on which single-family homes would be constructed, and requests a waiver of the option to purchase said parcel by the town of Southampton. This is going to be placed on a future meeting as an agenda item. It says Chair Martin has asked at a previous meeting the reason why the highway building expense line was already 69% expended. Ed confirmed with the highway superintendent that the 2 large repair costs to this account are the replacement of the heating unit in the mechanic bay, which was unforeseen, and ongoing issues with the boiler to heat the building, which has needed several repairs to keep it running this year. East Street Bridge update. VHB is arranging for the soil borings, which are required for the bridge design. We are currently reaching out to 2 property owners by the bridge for permission for the geotechnical engineers to go on their property with their equipment to perform some of those soil borings. Southampton Water Commissioners would like to invite the Board of Selectmen to their March 12th meeting at 6 p.m. in the first floor meeting room to hear Professor Bob Newton's presentation, which will discuss local Southampton geology, Barnes Aquifer, key recharge areas, and the importance of Kanapka Gouache property area to Southampton's drinking water. It is Professor Newton who has helped the Water Commissioners identify the Kanapka property as an important recharge area for our town. Kurt has originally tried to set this presentation up to be given at one of the March Board of Selectmen meetings, but Professor Newton was not available on the 5th or 19th. I'll get back to that in a second. Old business, next special project Ed will be working on is finding a qualified consultant to perform the feasibility/envelope study/evaluation of the police station, Old Town Hall on East Street. Upcoming 5-Town Hampshire Regional School Committee meeting Wednesday, February 20th, 5:30, which is tomorrow at Westhampton Town Hall. Board of Selectmen meetings March 5th and 19th. Okay, so go back to the request for the March 12th meeting at 6 PM for Professor Newton. I'm not sure who's available, but if you could put it on your calendars. We'd have to go as, post it as a meeting since he wants to invite the whole board. So if we can all get back to Ed, let him know if we're available.
What is the date?
March 12th, 6 PM. And it's in this room here. So I'll leave that up to each of us. And if we have a quorum, we'll post it. Any questions on his report?
I have one question. When I was reading through the minutes, it occurred to me that there's a lot of things that we just have out there pending, like the Green Communities Grant, the traffic study on Route 10, open space and recreation plan, some dog complaints. I'm just wondering if, it seems like they surface every once in a while, but I wonder if we could have a more methodical way of just having open issues.
Yeah, we do have open issues, but you're right, they're not, they seem to come and go.
Yeah, and, yeah, like the house, Coleman property, like charter, charter. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we could have like a running list.
Yeah.
And so that,
It should be under old business.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to address them every single time, but it just occurs to me that these things come up and that we don't have resolution on a lot of them.
I wonder if we, separate category that we can have these listed on the end of the agenda just for,
Yeah. I mean, the big one is the Green Communities thing. I mean, that's $130-something thousand.
New title, unfinished business.
Finished business.
yeah. So can you, Rini, as well as anybody else, email
Yeah.
me, and I'll put it all together and send it to Ed?
Sure.
Unfinished. Okay, thank you. Okay. Do we have Bobby and Aaron here from the,
John, I don't know if this would be a good time. We have a couple gentlemen here from Westfield Whip City. I don't know if we could move them up just to hear what they had to say prior to the Hampshire Regional.
that's what I'm looking at, what we should move up and whatnot. I don't want to keep the
Oh.
Hampshire Regional, but is this a quick presentation? I'm not sure.
5, 10 minutes? I mean, I don't know.
Do you, we have Hampshire,
It's up to you.
what's your schedule, Aaron and Bobby? I mean,
What's your schedule? Do you have to be out?
I need to be out by 7:30 at the latest.
okay, so let's go ahead with the,
Push us beyond.
yeah. Didn't see you back there, how are you? Okay, sorry, we're gonna hold you to the agenda here.
That's fine.
That's okay, good.
Try it.
Okay, so next up is the Hampshire Regional School Southampton members of the Regional School Committee, which we have 2 here. 2 members, that's right, correct? Okay. Do you folks want to come up front, just so we're all? Sure. Aaron and Bobby, you wanna come up front with us? Easy to see on camera.
It's my favorite thing.
Never mind then.
Yeah. Forget it.
Okay. Okay, not 100% sure how we're going to proceed, so we'll let it flow as it goes. But we had the school committee meeting 2 weeks ago, I believe, and the initial vote on the budget was made, and it was the first time that the folks on the school committee actually saw all the numbers on the budget. So they voted as a preliminary vote, and it's coming up again at the, which meeting? March 4th? March 4th meeting. So we wanted to have this meeting with the folks from Hampshire as well as our Southampton School Committee members, which only 2 were available to come. The rest, I believe it's school vacation, is that correct? So a lot of them were gone with their kids. So, and I'm gonna forget your name.
Dawn Scaparrotti from Goshen.
Don Caparati from Goshen. She is also on the school committee.
No, I'm actually the chair of the finance committee, and I was representing the select board at the last meeting. That's how we happened to
Okay, so that's out.
engage.
Okay,
Yeah,
I stand corrected. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you for coming. So we got the budget, and we talked about you know, obviously the needs of Hampshire Regional, we got to make sure the needs are met for the school, and the chair of the committee, as well as Aaron and Bobby talked about the budget, and it's increasing, was it 4.1% or something like that overall?
The assessment.
Yeah, to the assessment.
The budget itself is not increasing that much.
I'm going to get the assessment out here.
4.19.
4.19% on the assessment, and
For Southampton, yeah.
for Southampton.
So it's going to be worse than Greater. And I think 1.06 after. Did you all hear that?
4.17, was it?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the best way.
Yeah.
Bobby Jones, Business Administrator, Hampshire Regional School District. And Southampton's portion of the Hampshire Regional budget assessment is going up 4.19%.
Right. It looks like the composite, Bobby, is 5.65%?
Yes, the overall for all
So the
towns.
Overall, for all the 5 towns, goes up 5.65%.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
All right, and then the actual to the budget is a 2.71% overall.
An interesting part, if you go, you know, Chesterfield's 3.2%, Goshen's 8%, Southampton's 4.19, Westhampton's 4.76, and Williamsburg is 12.12%. But that's because they have more students
Right.
going to the regional. If you need to speak, you have to come up here and, but feel free.
Oh, Bobby, I just had a point of clarification, because there was something I
Before you
was...
start, you got to
Oh.
identify yourself
Oh,
on
I'm
camera.
sorry. I'm Dawn Scaparati, Chair of the Finance Committee in Goshen.
So you got a question?
I have a question. It's a question of clarification with respect to the budget increase.
Okay.
You just read through the assessment increase, and the composite was 5 point something?
5.65.
And I think, Bobby, you said that the increase to the budget itself was 2.71 or 2.71. And I just had a point of clarification on that, because the expenses went up 2.71, but the revenues went down a considerable amount. So together, the increase is significantly more than the 2.7. And I don't know what the standard is for reporting that, but if you don't report that the revenues have gone down and you only report the expenses, it's misleading. Or it's just not complete. If you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't give the full picture.
Right, and that's what the assessment sheet is for. That
Right.
gives you the full vision
And I think
of the
what
revenues and the expenditures.
all the towns are interested in is that percentage
Right.
going up to
Yeah.
the town.
Yep.
And obviously, with 2.5 override, we have a concern. We talked about at the school committee where if our budget goes up more than the 2.5 that we get, it kind of flows down into Norris School as any other town departments we have here. So we're trying to figure out how to bridge that gap, because you gotta have the level of education at the high school, but you gotta have the level of education at Norris School too, because, my words, it's a feeder system that goes up to Hampshire. If we don't give them quality students, they're gonna have more costs and more issues when they get up there. So we wanted to get our school committee members up here and see if, because they have a hard job. They're from Southampton, but they're on Hampshire Regional School Committee, so they've gotta, figure out what's best on their votes. And this is coming up again in early March at the next meeting. So I'd like to hear from both the two school committee members what you folks think, if you don't mind, on with the budget going up at Hampshire, and if you feel that's reasonable, and if so, how do you think we're going to come to grips with it on the town side?
Margaret Larson, 9 David, school committee member and school council member. So I always feel like we're in between a rock and a hard place working with the Hampshire regional budget. And I've been very supportive of the budget in the past, and I'm supportive of it this year, particularly since we are looking at a level service budget with the exception of the van driver. So that is the one exception to that, which will hopefully bring us further revenue down the line. My concern, well, both schools, but I'll talk about Hampshire Regional since that's the budget that I vote on, is If we start losing services, we lose students. And we have seen this happen at Norris consistently over the past however many years, probably since I moved here 10 years ago. And we're getting close to $1 million in school choice revenue at Hampshire Regional. And it continues to increase. We try to balance that with the number of students that we have coming in, like our current 8th grade class is huge. 8th grade? Yeah, I think it's the 8th grade class. But our senior class is very small. So we try to balance that so that we're not having to do additional hiring. You know, these are students who are able to fit into the fabric of the school without costing us additional money except for supplies and, you know, things like that. So and students are drawn to us because we have the AP programs, because we have sports, because we have an art program that is more expansive than almost any school in Western Massachusetts, public school. So we're fortunate in that. And I want to preserve those things because I feel like we start losing that and we're going to lose people to the new high school in Easthampton, which we are anyway, but we could conceivably lose students who are already connected to the Hampshire community. We're going to lose them there. Okay. We might lose more students in Holyoke because we have a lot of school choice students coming in from Holyoke. So that's where I'm looking at from the high school. I also see that from the position of Norris. So they've lost school choice people. So how do we bring that back in? Now, my personal opinion is that there were decisions made a long time ago regarding our property taxes that left a shortfall. That's my personal opinion. And I don't know how we resolve that. And that is personally painful for me, but something that I feel needs to happen so that we get all the support we need.
Are you talking about Prop 2.5 being changed or just overrides?
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that. We never took advantage of it.
And I'm going to go out, it's because it's very short-lived.
No, please.
I think everybody will agree with you. We've got to keep the quality up there because we have great programs and all that. The other side is, what do we cut down here? And I guess, and I don't wear my camera, and I'm not advocating this, but what happens if you keeping a level service budget at Hampshire meant we were cutting 3 or 4 teachers down here? You know,
That's what it's looking like.
If that's what it's looking at, then we have to make some changes.
Right, and that's why we're here, and we got to talk about it tomorrow in Westhampton, because something has to go.
Something has to give. I understand that.
Yeah, because we can only raise what we're allowed to raise in taxes, unless we do another 2.5 override, and we know how that went last year. And there was promises we all made that we're going to restart the system. So that's what we need to look at. The problem is we've got to balance both. And actually, you do too, as you said, because you're on the school committee up there, but you're also a resident
the town,
down here.
and I happen to have a child at Hampshire Regional.
Right.
And the budget that we approved cannot go up. It can go down.
Right.
If we all had our druthers, would it stay the same? Absolutely.
Sure.
Does that work with the town budgets? It may not.
Right.
And if that's the case, then we need to go back and look at the budget again.
Yeah. But we have a very short time frame to do that because you've got to do a final vote in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Can I?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to just ask a question. I mean, when I do the calculation, and I'm just looking at the school choice students coming in, not going out.
Sure.
But those coming in represent an income of $660,000 at $5,000 apiece. And the difference, and I know we've talked about this, of when we look at the budget and we divide it by the number of students we have enrolled and we look at our share, it's coming out to 17,000 plus.
Right.
Given that that's the per student cost, is there any way to calculate a better school choice scenario for ourselves with fewer students?
So let me address that.
Okay, looking at that formula.
So let me see if I can rephrase your question so I understand it. So your concern is that we get about $5,000 per student for choice, but when we look at our per pupil expenditures, it's $17,000. So that's your concern. So there seems to be this
$12,000
difference. All right, so if we have 120 choice students, is that about right? 131, all right. So we're dividing that among 6 grades. So what is that, 20 students per grade?
It works out that way,
22,
yeah.
25 students, you know, depending on the grade. In a high school setting, as opposed to a elementary school setting, that does not represent a classroom. That represents students adding into classes that are already there. If those students were not there, say in AP English, we still have to have our AP English class. We still have to have our cafeteria the way it is. We still have to provide the amount of food. You know, those are things that we still have to provide. It's like having a school bus that has 25 students on it. You still have to take the bus around, right? If you add 10 students to that, it does not increase anything to the cost of taking that bus around.
Okay.
So that's how we look at school choice.
Yeah, but I mean, has anybody, I know I'm not talking about self-contained classes where, you know,
Right.
that number go directly in there and they stay in there all
Correct,
day.
right. We're not adding teachers because we have those students. So they do not, in fact, cost $17,000. They cost some supplies. There's, you know, a seat in a classroom. They do pay for food at the cafeteria. They pay athletic fees.
Yeah,
They
but that's
contribute
negligible, yeah.
more than they cost. So when we look at that per average student, we're dividing it all, but that's not exactly accurate. I don't know. I don't
So
wanna
you would
speak out of
say
turn.
that, okay, so what
And
portion of that would be, if in other terms, what portion of that would you consider to be profit? I mean, money that's brought into the school, that benefits the school, and not a liability?
So,
I'm looking, is there a formula
And
to
it's a
look
great
at how
question.
many
So-
in
And I
each
will-
grade?
hold on a-
Aaron.
Yeah.
so no matter how,
Identify
Aaron
yourself.
Osborne, Superintendent of Schools, no matter how many choice students we take in or don't take in, the same number of choice students are going out. So the reality is, we have students going out, we may take in close to $1 million in choice in. We have close to $600,000 in students going out. So keep in mind that that offsets the cost of those students going out. We also have charter students going out. Each one of those charter students going out costs us about $15,000. So that is 3 times the cost of a single student coming in.
Yeah.
I will absolutely agree. Once upon a time, when this whole school choice thing started, $5,000 in 1992 money was a lot better deal than it is in 2019 money. Absolutely. I would rather have, you know, $1,000 in 1992 than $1,000 now. That's just the reality of the time value of money. So right now, we're sitting on a situation where if we don't want to take choice, that's great, but we're still paying choice out to the tune of $550,000. Our costs would not go down appreciably. It's the old-fashioned principle of another potato in the pot, right? You have 20 people coming to dinner, and someone else is going to come. You don't need to go out and buy a whole new roast. You don't need to go out and redo the whole stew. You add another potato in the pot, everybody eats. So the reality is, there are also things, you know, without 131 students there, we'd also be looking to cut athletic programs. We'd probably be looking to cut some other programs. Once we cut those programs, students that wanted to come here may not want to come anymore. So now we have $550,000 choicing out, and because we're not as attractive, we may have more students choice out, and we may have fewer choice in. It's a tough line to hold. I don't know exactly what that number is, but if we, at any given point, if we don't have to add a classroom, and we are not adding classrooms, and we can take in another school choice student, that is $5,000. If they have an IEP, it doesn't equate to exactly $5,000 a student because we get additional money. We incur no additional costs. So if someone wanted to come up to you and say, I'd like to hand you $5,000 to change nothing about what you're doing today, would you take it?
So,
Yeah, the answer is yes to
Absolutely.
that, but I think, and I'll not to, but I think what Francine might be suggesting, or at least what I would be suggesting is are we taking in, are we holding spots for teachers or for educators because we take too many school choice students. And so what I'm suggesting is not, it's not the take one more approach where you don't have to add a body, but if we didn't take as few, you'd have fewer and still have the same education. Because you've got, if you've got 20 kids per class, that's essentially a full class per grade.
Right. So I guess my argument is we have a lot of great programs. I won't argue that. We have programs that bring students back when they've been out of district in Southampton for lack of, at Norris for lack of services. We then have programs to bring them back. The language-based classroom that we're looking at for Southampton that was cut 5-7 years ago, I explained the cycle. You cut the program, 5 to 7 years later, guess what? Now you've got kids who need to go out of district because you've cut that service. Interestingly, when I raised that at the school committee meeting, the teachers union president said yes, raised her hand and said yes, in fact, we had that program 5 to 7 years ago, and they cut it from the budget. So, you know, now we're looking at 3 students going out of district for probably $80,000 each.
Yes, but it's because of those sacrifices over the years that our town has made at the expense of our elementary school that has caused this problem. And so at the same time, where I'm coming from with this is I don't see the same struggles at Hampshire Regional. And I say that almost proudly, but at the same time, the trouble there is that it's not a shared struggle, right? Like I'm fully committed to the Hampshire Regional School, and I'm glad that it's doing so well. It's just it's a tale of two cities, really.
So I would say that Hampshire Regional is a shared responsibility. So what programs do you want to cut because Williamsburg, because West Hampton, because Chesterfield Goshen fund their elementary school at a significantly higher level relative to Southampton? Should Williamsburg, West Hampton, Chesterfield, and Goshen, who I agree have their own struggles, I agree, but they are funding both the high school at the level it's funded now and their elementary schools at a significantly higher level. I'm not going to pontificate on why that has happened over the years. It's for anyone to decide, but somehow there are other towns that are funding both their elementary school at a significantly higher level, cost per student and net school spending basis. And they're still, again, have some pains, but still pay into and have paid into over the years. So I don't necessarily believe it's mutually exclusive. I understand there's challenges, and we absolutely want to work with it, but I think after the numbers I shared last time, the comment was that there was a belief that Hampshire Regional was fairly right funded. On a cost per student basis, it is the lowest cost similar regional school in this region. Now, on the other hand, Norris Elementary School is, by all metrics, the lowest funded elementary school in this region. I'm not disparaging it. I'm saying we have wonderful teachers. It is a level 2 school district on the backs of wonderful teachers who work very, very hard. And it is simply unfunded. I mean, I can't put it in other terms. It's the fact.
Got it.
But it's not because we're underpaying anybody at Norris. I mean, the salaries are good, the benefits are good, so I don't want it to seem like we're not funding Norris to get good teachers. We have great teachers there. They stay. We have a great education at a lower cost.
If it's not in the salaries of the teachers, then it's just in the programs.
Right, but we have great education at a lower cost.
Yes. The teachers at Norris are paid comparable with other teachers in the area.
Right, and that's fair.
We just don't have enough of them.
So, just getting back to your question, your example with the add an extra potato makes sense. So, if you ever had that extra potato where you had to add a second pot, you wouldn't take that person in because you have to set up a whole new classroom and.
To my understanding, we are not adding any new classes, programs, courses, things like that this year.
Okay.
I think we have an AP program coming in, a new AP program coming in. We are one of 2 school districts in all of Western Mass that has this program. and our library instructor is going to teach that course. So we are going to add service at no cost.
And
So-
what AP class is this? What AP class is it?
I'm trying to remember. It is,
That's fine.
oh,
That's
go ahead.
It's an AP research class.
Okay.
It's an actual 2-year AP, and so they're doing
Right.
research
Thank
and
you.
they're presenting, and it's quite prestigious.
So that teacher has enough time in her schedule, him or her, that they can take on this load?
she's going to shift things around.
Okay. So the other question is $600,000 going out in school choice. Have we done a real fine analysis of why these kids are going outside? And can we bring them back in, spend some money to get $600,000 back?
Well, that, we could spend money. That would not create a level service budget. Our school committee
Well, what I'm saying,
asked us to create a level service budget. We created what we felt was a level service, and we also had a very, very small, I think it was $7,000 total dollars to add a van. So we,
that was a little
offered to do that.
phrase, thinking out of the box, which I thought was a great
Right.
presentation. We're going to save money by having a van, our own
Right.
driver.
Right.
But if we look at that 600K and say, why are they going out? Have we done surveys with the parents? And, okay, go ahead. And if they say, because we don't have this service, how much will it cost us to put that service in versus the 600K? We may be able to benefit, make money on that, if you will. But, so you have,
So keep in mind that some of those students are going to a charter school, and that's why it costs us more for
Okay.
those students to go there. So it's not an exact science to find
I
out.
asked quite before, sorry.
Sorry.
I thought school choice was out, but the charter was a whole different line item.
Well, it is school,
So
sorry.
600, so it's just school
600.
choice out.
Is it?
Yeah,
five-
550
five
something thousand.
550, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I rounded, yeah.
But the same reasons that people might leave for charter, that there are some similar kinds of ideas. So the principal has asked parents why they are taking their students out. And we hear things like it's geographically more convenient for them to go to, say, from Williamsburg, say, to Northampton. Although the elementary school principal, Stacy, has done a wonderful job of keeping more people in. So part of it's geographic. We can't do much about that. They might have a lacrosse program. They might have, if they're going to a private school or something else, there might be AB programs available, the Bachelor, International Baccalaureate, things that we can't offer. That would be very expensive for us to offer.
So have we done a formal survey of all these people?
Well,
or is it
we've
just
tried
talking?
to. It's more talking, getting people to respond to it.
Yeah.
That's
It
pretty
almost
much
seems like an email
what
survey
we
going
can do.
out.
We've tried, yes, that was done as part of school council 2 years ago. And so the answers we got back were all of the same general variety. My child plays a sport, you don't offer. My child wants to go to an AB program. My child wants to be with his or her friends at a different school. Those are the types of things.
So nothing we could spend a little money on to give them what they need and present it at less
Not-
cost?
I think we looked at that. There wasn't a majority of, so many students are saying we don't offer Latin, and should we offer Latin? That's not why students are leaving Hampshire Regional. There didn't seem to be anything
There's no
that
pattern
would,
there.
right, that would be enough to pull people back in. The other thing that I had it in my head, and now I've completely lost it. Rats. When Matt was saying something about 20 people being a full class. So in the middle school, for example, they have 2 teams. So if you have 20 kids in a middle school class or added by school choice, they're divided among those 2 teams. So now there's 10 in 2 teams. Students take 7 classes a day. So we're not talking about adding 5 or 6 children to a single classroom. That doesn't happen. The other thing that I feel like the school has been very careful about is adding students mid-year, and in fact, the decision was made for future years no longer to add students after the start of school, because often students who are transferring at that point either have social emotional difficulties, or they might need an IEP, and they need extra services that we can't provide at that point. So we are trying to be very careful in how we're approaching school choice and not burdening the staff we already have.
And just for the audience, school choice in is at our discretion, school choice out is at the parent's discretion.
Correct.
We have no control over that.
Right.
I think a consistent problem is state funding, and I'm just wondering, with the Rural Schools Act, or a bill that is in front of the state legislators right now,
I'm going to let you take that.
will that help?
I can, I assumed you've all called your legislators?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, first step. Adam Hines has a bill on the floor for rural aid. It will add $9 million of rural aid. The last formula I saw going around was proposing 15 million. So it's a little less than the 15, but 9 million. In that case, Hampshire Regional in the $15 million. I haven't seen a breakdown by school of the 9 million. The $15 million scenario, I had Hampshire Regional receiving $265,000. If the 9 million came through and we received, call it 2/3 of that amount of money, that would be a game changer. Chesterfield, Goshen, every one of our elementary districts is on that list as well, including Southampton, the initial list. So I don't know how a final formula would play out, but I would be hopeful that if that 9 million were spread similarly to the scenario. You know, one of the challenges is west of, I want to say Worcester, there are only 22 legislators. So that really hurts, and that's why we're going to Rural Schools Day. I'm heading to the Hill with 3 students and the principal from Chesterfield Goshen, and we are going to go door to door and shake hands and ask them to please, please, please support the rural aid bill.
And does this bill include what they're supposed to be paying for regional transportation, or is it separate?
That's entirely separate. Regional transportation is another. One of the real challenges is Chapter 70 funding. So one of the challenges that leads to the assessment being as high as it is that Chapter 70 funding is effectively at 0% for us right now, based on some of our metrics. So the challenging reality is, let's say you were looking at a $2 million budget, total budget, and $1 million of that came from Chapter 70. If you wanted to do a 2% increase, which would be $40,000, and half of it is at 0%, the half that you, the town, has to make up is double that. So in order to make up that $40,000, you have to contribute what's basically a 4% increase. So that would be, let's say on the Southampton side, you would then, in order to give Southampton Elementary School 2%, you would really have to come up with 4%. And in addition to that, we acknowledge that you pay health insurance, and that is going up. Unemployment, I know county retirement went up significantly this year, depending on what you're paying into. So, you know, we absolutely acknowledge that the burden that's placed on the towns for some of this stuff is extraordinary. And when we talk about that 2.71% increase, we are, or, you know, whatever to assessments, we are talking about the fact that Hampshire Regional is taking the burden of insurance and retirement increases, things like that. So
I'm going to go back to you, Margaret. Do you have something for the other side? And then I'll get to ask Tammy the same thing. Great picture of Hampshire Regional. I think we all agree 100%, but we know we've got to cut some money somewhere in order to fully fund it. So do you have any thoughts on the Southampton side where we could cut in order to fund Hampshire Regional to the level that they're requesting? Because if we don't come up with some ideas and we need to be creative, we're going to end up cutting something
And
somewhere.
I don't know all the budget numbers for Southampton well enough to,
Yeah, we don't have them
to
quite
speak
yet.
intelligently about that, so
But just more thoughts on maybe we can improve something somewhere, or we're reaching.
Does Southampton have a budget?
It's not yet. They're going through the budget process now.
So, okay.
But I'm not saying where you cut dollars. Is there a program that you say maybe we could tweak this? Have you thought of that? Like we said with the school choice out, have you looked at why they're going out?
Right.
Is there something that
I
we're
mean,
not
I
seeing?
honestly had, there's nothing on the top of my
Nothing.
head.
Okay. I'm gonna ask everybody I see.
Yeah,
just
no, I'm
get any
happy to
ideas.
think more, but I think once I see some numbers, I think that,
Yeah,
because
okay.
that's kind of what I respond to, that's how my brain works, so,
And you will see those as soon as we see them, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Tammy, would you like to weigh in?
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway, Southampton School Committee member. I personally do not have any kids going up to Hampshire. I have 2 that are going to Smith Voc, and I have my reasons for them going there. I feel Hampshire offers tremendous courses and abilities for these children. You had asked before about adding classes and stuff. There are a number of online classes that Hampshire Regional offers their students, where they have a teacher there that if they have a question on, they have other teachers there that they can go to. So, you know, they benefit from having that extra option. So that if there's not a class like the Latin, they can take it online and still get help from those teachers. So that's one thing. Margaret hit a ton of perfect examples, so I really did owe to her. But your question of where do we cut here in our town budget?
In the town, right?
I
Looking for
don't know if
ideas.
it's necessarily cutting. Why are we not trying to increase our revenue with our commercial property that we do have? All this open space that we have that could have commercial or businesses going in that, yeah, we don't have a septic system or a
Sewer system, right?
but we have really decent soil around here. And there are businesses that are willing to pay the price to get that septic in and expand here. So is there a way that we can promote more businesses to come in?
We talked about this many times, but you said the sewer system, that's a big component to bring people in right along the Route 10 corridor. If there was sewer, I think we'd be full.
Yeah.
Businesses don't want to come in and have a septic system, you know, all that expense that goes with it.
You know, the other 2 things you need, natural gas is not available in a lot of places.
A lot of places,
And
yeah.
Well,
water is
O'Reilly
not.
just came in,
Yeah,
right?
they're on the Easthampton, Southampton line, and they're hooked up to the septic in Easthampton.
Yeah.
They are.
yeah, right.
But there's another building lot right there, is there? On the corner?
Yeah, there's a small.
And right behind it, isn't that another? There's a
That's-
house right there. It's 2 over.
There's some residents.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but they tore down a house for O'Reilly to put up that building. But again,
Yes.
they were able to hook up.
They're
That
close
was a
enough.
very, very wet site. The site work for that particular facility, O'Reilly's, was a lot of money. I was on the planning board approving the site plan for that, and the stormwater was huge.
But the business,
Stormwater was like 6 inches below the surface.
but the business wanted to get in here
Yeah.
and was willing to pay it. We gotta come up with other,
Again, they have sewer and water.
yeah.
You know, that's,
Yeah.
if you add that expense on top of that, I'm not sure if they'd be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we need to draw other places in. Our trading post, I think there's 1 business in there right now. We gotta figure out a way to get that full again.
Well, if there's vacant businesses, it's up to the landlord to attract them, you know. Town doesn't go out to help the private
Yeah.
owners, yeah.
And there is land for sale on Route 10 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We do have a new coffee shop.
yeah.
And I think that plaza's full, isn't it now?
Do we have any, I know individual businesses belong to the joint Easthampton, Southampton Chamber of Commerce, and that might be one way, but we don't, as a select board or as a municipality, have any relationship with them, and that maybe we or they could work with us to start to promote the area to some extent, if townspeople want it. I mean, that becomes the other, that
And
becomes the
that's
other
the thing,
decision.
everybody in town is voting for all the open space that we don't have any property tax, real estate tax coming in on, and now that's lost. But they want it to be a bedroom community and not have all those businesses. Something's got to give.
We talked about that before. When you put in houses, you end up taxing the services, so it's not a win.
Yeah.
It's not a win.
Each house,
And so having open space is actually something that the people in this town voted for.
Yep.
So we have to come up with ways to generate revenue without pitting any building versus not building. We have to come up with ways to generate revenue
There
and
was
support
a-
our schools.
There was a committee years ago, and I think it was maybe chaired by Dan Bellbell, to try to promote business in town. That committee, I believe, dissolved, and Jackie Sears gave me, it's a huge box of all the information, and I know there was areas they were thinking of rezoning the town to try to promote business in another area, but that never went anywhere.
Dan, was that the, Dan Bellevue, is that the gentleman that owns Midtown Motors and
father.
Space Station? His father.
yeah, they're both Dan's.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that would be the storage space. That doesn't need sewer.
No, and he's expanded that,
Yeah.
quite a bit.
So, there are other things, A to Z, it keeps putting up storage places everywhere.
That's, I believe, is that the Easthampton side, though?
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Easthampton. Easthampton's loaded with it.
Yeah. So, yeah, we welcome anybody coming in looking for business,
Yeah.
but because of the sewer and the water, that's the issue. Any other thoughts?
Not off the top of my head, sorry.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. Did you want to say something?
John Scaparati from Goshen Finance Committee again. I just wanted to make a couple of remarks. One, I don't want to take up the time for the citizens of Southampton. The only reason I'm here is that we have a regional school system, and what goes with one affects the others. And we're early on in the budget process, but Goshen, in order to meet its obligations to both of the schools, we're examining, on Finance Committee, we're examining how we're going to do that, and right now, we're looking at a Prop 2.5 override. So we do not know if it's going to pass. If it doesn't pass, it will impact down the line. We're hoping that we can, by the time the final budget comes in, that there will be some reductions and we can find some creative ways to meet that. Right now, we are at, I think everybody sort of knows how it goes. You have a standard budget. The state allows you to increase 2.5%, and to that you add new growth. Right now, with the schools alone, we haven't factored in any other increases in any other areas of the budget. We're at 128% of the Prop 2.5 plus new growth. So without adding our own health insurance, blah, 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 blah. So we've got an issue. We're looking to cut a significant amount of dollars from our budget. Our budget doesn't have a significant amount of fat. So we're kind of up against it, as are the schools. I also want to go on record as to say that I am not against education. I am a product of the Goshen Elementary School many years ago and a graduate of Hampshire Regional High School. That education allowed me to go on to Smith College, and it allowed me to have a substantive career in San Francisco and elsewhere, where I'm competing with people who come from various other backgrounds. So I am a proponent of the education, and I think we need a strong education. That said, we are all up against it, both the schools and the towns, in trying to fund what is required to maintain the education. One area that I'm not certain, I think we're in a difficult situation, but I think we have to look at, because we've all been talking about programs and trying not to cut the programs. So then you have to look at where are the largest components of your costs. And the largest components of your costs are in salaries and benefits. You can only negotiate those every 3 years, as I understand it. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Okay, so only every 3 years. So when you have that opportunity, you need to take that opportunity. This is a negotiating year at Hampshire Regional. We need to make sure that the negotiating team is fully informed about the constraints that the towns have. We cannot fund unlimited growth in those areas. One way to do that is to have a municipal rep. We are allowed one municipal rep for all 5 towns. All of the select boards got together a few weeks ago and voted a municipal rep, John Martin, to represent all 5 towns on the school committee. The school committee then can decide whether or not that rep participates in the negotiations. And the school committee decided that that rep could not participate in the negotiations. I think that was a tremendous oversight. I don't totally understand it. But what I want to say is the benefits. All of us are covered by one benefit plan or another through our spouses, through ourselves. We know what's happened in the state of benefits over the last 10 or 15 years. The last time the benefits for this Hampshire Insurance Trust? I think that's where the benefits are provided, right? Is that it? Yeah, Hampshire Group Insurance Trust was 2002. A lot has changed in the environment since 2002. To have no copays, to not examine your copayments, to not examine what you pay when you go to the doctor, or your coinsurance, the other amount that you pay, to not have that examined in that length of time is really tough. Now, to have that examined, here's the problem. Here's what the schools are up against. The insurance trust covers about, I'm going to say 70 schools and municipalities. It is, if I understand this, and if you know Bobby or Aaron, please let me know. When changes are proposed to that, the executive committee of that trust proposes the changes. It's the member units who vote on those changes. So it's the teachers, the municipalities who vote on that. And the last time there was a change suggested, there's a protocol that one has to follow. The unions for the teachers have to be notified in writing that they're going to be looking at the design of the benefit plans. And that happened the last time. I don't know if it was last year. I'm going to go to the meeting tomorrow morning to find out. But when that was done, what ended up happening is the unions were notified, but due to a technicality, they weren't notified by certified mail. Because they weren't notified by certified mail, there could be no changes made. If we continue like this, we're just going to be up against it. I know that because part of my career was in benefit plan design for corporations. I do not think we should slash and burn. Everybody needs to be covered and have reasonable coverage, but we have to understand that those are the costs that are driving what's happening. If you don't want your programs cut, you have to look elsewhere. I don't know what we're going to be able to do for this year. I don't know how far we are in the negotiations. I don't know what's going to be able to happen. I don't know even that we can talk about that. But I'm just saying, every 3 years you got that opportunity. If you miss that opportunity this time, you're looking at 3 more years of inflation. And we brought this up 3 years ago. Now we're talking 6, 9 years. If we don't address this, we are all going to be in trouble. So we're going to look for a way to increase our property taxes to try to support the school. I don't know if the townspeople will vote for it. We're the smallest, you're the largest. You have to be cut a significant amount in order for us to feel that. I think we're up against it this year, and you'll be up against it another time. But just my thoughts. We have to start looking at what is driving the largest cost. If you don't want programmatic changes, those costs have to be addressed.
Thank you.
Point
Thank
well
you.
taken, thank you.
I have a pretty specific question.
Sure.
So to her point, and I just need to be educated on this, I think, because I probably am missing something. But with regard to salaries, which is a huge line, can you just explain what goes into? I mean, there's about 6 line items there. They're all going up various percentages, but the bigger line items, the ones that are in the millions, are going up between 5 and 6%. And I guess and I probably should be speaking into the mic, and I guess what I'm struggling to understand is what portion of that is per the contract, and what portion of that is, I mean, I don't know how else to say this, discretionary. I mean, I just.
So all of our teachers at all of our districts are on a pay scale.
Yep.
So there's a pretty, and every school has them, they're pretty significant. So they start very low. We start with a bachelor's degree, brand new teacher, all the way up to a PhD level, doctoral level, with us for, I think the top step is 12 or 13 years of experience. And that ranges from, I want to say 43,000 up to 70,000.
So this is a combination of progression of steps.
It is a
plus
natural
cost of living
progression
increase.
of normal anticipated COLAs plus steps.
Okay.
Some teachers do get longevity at various places. It gets pretty, in the weeds with some of that, but this is not presuming for additional teachers. Many of our teachers, we do have actually quite a few young teachers who are still progressing through steps. So it may appear as though they're getting large increases, but they typically start much lower than the higher end teachers.
Okay.
Very normal.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep. I'd like to also point out, Ms. Scapriotti mentioned changes to the Hampshire Group Insurance Trust. I believe those changes have been made. Hampshire Group Insurance Trust this year enacted, we have voted on the ability, both of our school committees, Chesterfield Goshen and Hampshire Regional, and anyone else who's in the trust should have voted to accept those changes. And they are significant changes to co-pays, hospitalization, and things like that. So yes, it probably was overdue for Hampshire Group Insurance Trust, but that's largely out of individual schools and towns and municipalities' power. The trust has made a significant change to that.
I think we had a presentation on that.
Okay, any questions up here at the board? I think what we found out is Hampshire Regional does a great job educating the students. We all want to keep it at that level. We haven't come up with the answer on the other side, of course, which you got to work on through the budget process. But these two folks are from the school committee, plus there's 4 others, and there's 6 total, which gives us, I think, 47.23158% of the vote. I'm getting a little off on the decimal point after that, but basically almost half. So our folks got to get together, and hopefully going tomorrow night to the meetings in Westhampton. I think that's going to be an interesting one because we hear from the other towns.
I'm wondering, were you all invited to?
I don't think so, John.
I received
Yes.
an email
Okay.
update for it, but when I asked Ed about it, he said, we're not sure if there's gonna be enough seating in that place, because it's small.
So initially, only administration had been invited. I wasn't aware of this, and then I received a question whether Carl, who's the chair of the Hampshire Regional School Committee, should be invited. And I said, sure, yeah, of course, he's the chair. I think the whole school committee. In fact, if we're having a 5 towns meeting, I believe, Amherst does this. Amherst, Leverett, Pelham, Shutesbury have a 4-town meeting. They have it annually. It's a constructive discussion of issues that face all the towns. I would jokingly think of those plow lines that turn around at the town line. You've got the line of snow at the town line. Is there something
Probably go to the mic, okay? Do you mind going at the mic?
Hmm?
So people at home can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Amherst, Leverett, Pelham, I'm not impugning our DPWs who work very hard, but, are there things that we can do working together? You've just asked, what are some cuts, what are some things that we can consider? Are there other intermunicipal agreements that we can make among the towns? We have these 5-member towns who are all invested in the schools, very much so. Is there room for other intermunicipal agreements that might provide some cost savings rather than turning that plow around at the town line? Can it finish the road? Do they need to stop standing at that exact moment and then turn around? What needs to happen to make some of this change? So, my hope is that, we have regular, 5-town meetings, and we have these discussions that include the schools, all 5 schools, because as you stated very, very much so, this isn't just an issue of Hampshire Regional, it's an issue of Hampshire Regional, Southampton, Westhampton, Williamsburg, Chesterfield, Goshen. It incorporates all of the towns and all of the schools working together. I think you're shortchanging your communities not to include all of those committees in that discussion.
Well, the thing is, it's a public meeting, so obviously
Why aren't we
it's
meeting
open.
at the high
Right,
school?
right.
Well,
Right.
Meeting at
it-
Hampshire Regional.
Auditorium would have been a great
It,
spot.
we're meeting at the town hall there because they didn't feel they wanted it at Hampshire Regional. They wanted it on mutual ground, and it was
Hampshire
selected.
Regional is the thing that brings us together in this.
Well,
Right,
yeah, some of the other towns as
happy
well felt it wasn't,
So in the future, let me extend that we would be happy.
Yeah, but not
we
to
would-
the point that it would exclude school committee members.
Yeah.
That's
I
ridiculous.
think West Hampton
So-
volunteered that venue.
So a couple things I would say is we would be happy to host it at Hampshire
Of course you're
Regional.
invited.
I think it would make a lot of sense to hold it earlier in the budget process. As you also stated, we are up against less than 2 weeks before we have to present the final budget. We are, again, the word preliminary is very true about that budget. It is not finished. There are other factors that are going into it and continue to go into it. But in terms of services and programs and things like that, having that like 5-town meeting in January would be very constructive. If we had that meeting in January and all 5 towns and all 5 schools sat together and we talked about the issues facing the schools, we talked about the issues facing the towns, I think we could have a really constructive discussion.
I don't disagree, but at the school committee 2 weeks ago, it was the first time anybody saw numbers. So you can't talk about it in January if the numbers aren't there. You can
Right.
just be more in the general. This is when
Right.
we first saw how much our budget was going up. So I think
Right.
we reacted pretty quickly. 2 weeks later, we're sitting here,
Right, so realistically though, this is a knee-jerk reaction. To your point, to
Once
your
we-
exact
but
point,
once
this
we
is a
got the-
knee-jerk
right.
reaction
But once we got the
to the
numbers,
preliminary budget. I would think that a constructive budget with the ability for anyone to talk to their elected representatives on the school committee and to attend 2 very public meetings, one being a preliminary budget meeting and a final budget meeting, where as members of these communities, you are all welcome to speak, you're all welcome to stand up and talk about those line items.
That's true,
the
but we
rea-
need
one
the
of-
numbers to discuss it.
Right.
You can't be, we're not gonna, I don't think I think it's pointless to have a meeting without,
Okay.
without numbers in
Okay.
front of us.
Okay.
and just because I want to say it, I guess, is that when we asked about the numbers last time, I says, is this the first time anybody's seeing these numbers, this budget?
Yes.
And it was no. I says, so everybody's seen these numbers. Well, they've seen the budget without the numbers. To me,
Right.
I know I've got to buy food and everything at home. If I don't have numbers after it, it really doesn't help.
So the reality is the governor's budget that is a big factor to this does not come out and is not available until mid-January.
Right.
Yeah.
My intent would be, I'm guessing the towns know their financial situation, I have some guess as to what their financial situation is, and can share it with the committee as a whole. Rather than coming, I guess it's semantics. I mean, we could do it before, we could do it after, we could schedule something in the middle.
I mean, I think a meeting in January is
I think it would
good
be
for
a
an
very
opening.
constructive, making it constructive, making it holistic, and including all of the different schools and all of the different town departments would be powerful.
Can I understand a little bit, and maybe it's not understood, but why do they get together and vote one person from the municipal side to be part of these agreements, and then the school committee gets to decide school committees get to decide whether or not this person is actually allowed to be part of this?
Well,
That's the law.
the way I,
So we looked at 2 options to fill this prior to be handed the regulations as to exactly how it was to be handled. Both of those first scenarios would have, I apologize, I was unfamiliar with the law, as was Carl. Hampshire Regional has never, to his knowledge or anyone's knowledge, followed that system, the municipal representative system. So as it turns out, we offered, being somewhat ignorant of it, we offered a seat on the negotiations committee to I believe the person from the town who raises an issue. We said, let's just get this, keep this going, keep negotiations going. They, I believe, came to one meeting and then declared that they wanted a vote of the towns. In speaking with our attorney, he suggested the most expedient way would be to send an email, and you can ask Ed this, to the towns and ask them to select someone from among them. At that point, the plan was still, whoever that was, seat them on the negotiation subcommittee. That was then also refused. And so we were presented with the actual regulations, line and verse. And within the line of verse, it stated that that individual will be a member of the school committee. And it will be an election of the school committee to determine, as per any school committee member, they'll be treated as any school committee member as far as seating them on that negotiation subcommittee. The school committee held a vote per that regulation, and the vote went the way we're describing. So I mean, I'm not sure.
So did I hear you say that you thought initially that it was going to be a municipal person, and then you found out that it was supposed to be a school committee member, and then the school committee member voted not to include this municipal person?
They're included. They're a member of the school committee for purposes of voting for the contract and discussing an executive session. That person's welcome in executive session. That person was not voted to be part of was to be on the negotiations subcommittee.
Well, it seems to me if we're trying to improve the relationship between municipal side and schools, it's not one way to get there.
There seems to be a lot of disconnect.
And the way it was, and just for their end, the vote that they took not to have this person, which turned out to be me, on the negotiating committee was done. The 5 select board members were outside in the hallway deciding which amongst the 5 of us would represent. And they did that, so it wasn't based on who was selected. It was just based on, we felt that we had a negotiating committee together, we've started the process. And, you know, whether I agree or disagree didn't matter, that was the process, and, you know, it was open, yeah.
I did have a question.
That's why standing there happens.
Let me
yeah.
think, just give me a second. Don Scaparrotti again from Goshen Finance Committee. A couple of things. One of the things, again, that drives the cost are the benefits, and as Superintendent Osborne said, the trust, and I'll find out more about it. I've never gotten any information. I did ask about it at the last meeting. I'll find out more when I attend the trust meeting tomorrow. But there is something we have control over, and that's called the cost-sharing ratio. How much the school pays versus how much the teacher pays. That ratio years ago was 90-10. And then over the course of the last 10 years, maybe, it's come down to 75-25. The municipalities are 60-40. So Goshen is 60-40. I don't know what your municipality is. For some reason, I believe Westhampton, their municipality is 75-25. So in the process of negotiations, potentially, the school, the teachers' union said, well, we will set our cost-sharing ratio at whatever the highest municipality is paying. I don't understand why that can't be revisited, because that's a big number. So that's one. The other thing is, I don't know. I'm going to have to cede my question, and if I remember it, I'll go back to it.
Just to address something. One is the committee, being on the school committee, the executive session. It was my first time there. I thought they were very willing to listen and all that. So I don't see any issue with that. I thought it was a good meeting, and we talked about different suggestions. What you're talking about, insurance and all that stuff, whatever the executive committee is talking about, whether it's included or not, we can't say anything, obviously.
Yes.
So, take all this information back to the meeting and discuss
and
it.
I know what it was. I think Aaron makes a really good point. If we all got together early on to talk about parameters, to talk about constraints, et cetera, but the genesis of the meeting that is scheduled for tomorrow night, somebody from, I believe it was Chesterfield, called what's called an HMAC meeting, Hampshire Municipal Advisory Group Committee, HMAC, and that HMAC consists of all of the select boards of the 5 towns, all of the finance committees of the 5 towns, and that's what the HMAC consists of. My understanding is they invited the administration because it's about the budget, and they invited the chair of the school committee. So the HMAC, it's an HMAC meeting, and the composition of the HMAC are the select boards and the finance committees. So I think that was the genesis and the makeup of that meeting. But because it's to talk about the schools, it only makes sense to have the schools there and to have the school committee represented through the chair.
Yeah. Originally, there was a lot of emails going around, people trying to organize, and we turned it over to the town administrator saying, you guys set it all up, and it ended up in Westhampton, which is fine. Hi, Margaret.
Last thing, Margaret Larson, 9 David. So Tammy and I are both part of the negotiating subcommittee, and we are very happy to have a member of any select board on the Hampshire Regional Voting Committee for that. We're very pleased with that. I want to explain the vote. We have already had 6 or 7 meetings as a negotiating subcommittee. On the negotiating subcommittee are representatives from the teachers, as well as Aaron and the chair of the Hampshire Regional School Committee, and then there are 4 members at large. All of us, or 5, all of us happen to be from Southampton. Like I said, we have had 7 meetings in the past. So Tammy and I both participated in this process 3 years ago, and it was contentious. It went on much longer than it needed to be because it became contentious. And so I think those of us on the committee this year, Jim Palermo being the only new person, felt that we didn't want to repeat that particular process. So we were sensitive to the relationship building. We were also sensitive to the fact that we know what's happening at Norris with some of their contract negotiations. So having had this experience with a group and we felt we were making progress, we wanted to retain that relationship. And that I believe is where our vote came from. It was unanimous, including all the people who are on the negotiating subcommittee. That said, it is important to us to hear from you or from other select boards about whether it's insurance or other items that we can take into consideration. When we started, there were ground rules. It said after a certain point there would be nothing new introduced. Because of this change, there may be new things introduced, there may not be. We don't know. But I just wanted to explain that. And we did, because we voted when people were out of the room, it was person agnostic. It was not directed at any one person that this decision was made. And those of us on the negotiating subcommittee feel comfortable with that. But I can understand that there is concern about that decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. The other,
I was going to say, because the process wasn't followed, those meetings, we got to go back and review everything technically, because it wasn't done appropriately. So, and the chair of the school committee sent me all the information recently. I'm going over it, asked for my input. So, I think it's going to be a good process. I don't, like I said at the meeting, even if you knew it was going to be me, I don't take it personally.
So the other thing I want to say about the budget process in general is that you are correct that we did not have specific numbers until our February meeting, and that is because we don't get foundation numbers from the state until mid-January. We did know, however, that the intent was to be a level service budget with the possible inclusion of the van. We looked at capital improvement ideas, so we've been looking at those since December. If we want to meet earlier in the whole budget process, we would need to use numbers from the previous year, and if we're agreeing that we're using numbers from the previous year, knowing that they may or may not be accurate, I think we are, happy to participate in that and understand where everyone's coming from. But just as a resident of Southampton, I want to assure you, I feel like you have some good representation on school committee, people who come to these meetings. I don't know how many other school committee members go to their town meetings, but you almost always have representation here. And you have people who are sitting on committees, all kinds of committees in Southampton. We know what's going on in the town, and we're devoted to both ideals of a wonderful town and a wonderful school.
Good.
All right.
Thank you. Nobody lined up? Any other questions up here?
No.
Okay, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.
And Aaron kept his schedule.
Pardon me?
Aaron made his schedule, 7:25.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, and Aaron kept his schedule, 7:25.
25, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we did the 111 Glendale Road update. Fiscal 19 budget and expenditure reviews. Unless you have something specific, I'm going to pass over at least temporarily to get some of these other things.
Sure.
Is that okay? So, same with the Hampshire Regional. We don't need to go into that. East Street Bridge update. I believe I read that from Ed's report.
Yep.
So we're all set there. Okay, new business. Vacation payout for Don Giguar, not pronouncing that right, Girroir, Assistant Treasurer Collector due to resignation. That's per the state law. We have to pay out vacation pay on anything that's earned. So we need a motion to allow that payout.
I move to pay Dawn Guerra out for her accrued vacation time.
Here a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, Whip City Fiber presentation. Finally, you're up, sir.
Yeah. Well, let me give you the 2-second. On the planning board, I'm with, we have engineer Paul Fergal, and he mentioned to me a couple times that we really ought to talk to Westfield. They have Whip City Fiber Optics. It's not cable TV, but it's the internet, I believe. And
Now it says internet and TV here. Is that?
You can only offer internet on the network. You can get TV through the internet.
Oh, okay. Internet TV. Yeah.
so I contacted them, and I asked a few questions, and I figured it'd be best if he came and talked to the board.
Sounds
and we
good.
could
If
all
you want to
ask the
go up,
questions.
introduce yourself, and
Richard Cardinal, Senior Fiber Architect, Whip City Fiber, Westfield Gas and Electric. Just to give you a little background, and I am here with John Leary, actually, who's our IT supervisor in Westfield. So a little background. Westfield Gas and Electric, of course, municipal utility operator in Westfield, has been doing electricity and gas for a century. For the last 20 years, they have been doing fiber optic networks, connecting all the city buildings together, all the school buildings in Westfield, major manufacturing building connected together, putting people on the internet. In 2014, they launched a plan to start doing residential internet in Westfield, competing with the incumbent cable operator. It is only internet, but it's really a state-of-the-art internet. It's a full gigabit speed, both up and down through the internet. And many things now are moving to where you can use telephone, you can get TV, you can do all kinds of things simply on a simple internet network. So that's what we've done. In Westfield, we spent about $18 million over the last 4 years. Completed about 70% of the town, doing well, doing ahead of budget. And we've also branched out into a new area. We're helping 20 towns in Western Mass who had very poor internet. They had no cable companies. They had limited DSL internet. So we're working with those, what we call the hill towns, to provide a network. The state and federal government had built the middle mile network, but there was no network that reached down every street in a place like Goshen or Chesterfield. So you can imagine what it's like to live now in 2019 with no internet, no good internet access. Education is a problem. Employment's a problem. The populations are getting smaller. Kids are moving out. So all those factors drove to a point where the state is actually helping these communities fund their own networks. The states probably end up paying about 40% of the capital cost to build these networks in place. Our role is, we had done it in Westfield, and we were chosen by the state to be the project manager to help these towns design and build and eventually operate these networks to provide services in the towns of Goshen, Chesterfield, and 18 other communities in Western Mass. So that's kind of what we're doing. But we spent the money in Westfield. These towns in the other areas spent their own money and the state's money to put that capital in place. And eventually they'll pay down their debt, and eventually the income from those networks will keep them sustainable.
so you have to run all new fiber for this project?
Right.
Okay. And once it's up and going, is there a cost difference between this and, say, our current internet provider that makes it worthwhile to do the debt service and pay for all this?
Well, we compete against the incumbent operator in Westfield, and you'll get good market share against the incumbent operator. You basically can position that you get a superior internet, you can get phone, and you can get TV. It's not the same TV, it's streaming TV, but you can get live services, and you could probably save money.
Okay.
So that's kind of the message in a nutshell, how we compete against Comcast in Westfield.
So if we were interested in pursuing this, what steps will we take to find out more?
You have to form a MLP. By forming an MLP, municipal light plant, it gives you the ability to request space on the telephone poles. Once you do that, you would basically have to come up with the capital to build a network. You're probably looking at somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 per mile by the time the project's done, and you have people on the network. A significant portion of that is not to build your network. A significant portion is to create the space on the current telephone poles to make room for your network. So what happens is you go down and do a pole survey. Verizon may have to lower their network. Power may have to raise their network. And if the pole's too short to accommodate the space needed for your network, you get to replace the telephone pole and build out the network that way. So that's a long and arduous process. It's very expensive. You'll end up spending 30 to 40% of your money just on make-ready, making a path for your network.
Is there a time frame that Westfield did a debt exclusion that the payback, is it 30 years, 40 years,
I'm not sure what it is.
20 years?
So you're actually offering a competitor to the services that we currently
Right.
have available.
Yep.
It's not a bad consumer thing.
No.
So we're competing against Comcast, competing against Verizon.
Did you,
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Just to add a little flavor here.
you have to introduce yourself if you would?
Sure. John Leary, IT Supervisor, Westfield Gas and Electric. And listening to the conversation tonight about business. Businesses need internet, they need good internet, and they need stable internet. Schools, funding, things like that. This is not an answer for next year, the year after, the year after that, but this may be an answer that you could be searching for to take care of the problems that you have in these schools. It may be, because you will have control over your municipal light plant, you will have control over rates, you will have control over the people here in town that decide to take you as an internet provider. They're going to be paying you for internet. Let me give you an example. I won't ask anybody here. I paid $187 a month to Comcast. I live in Northfield. Right now I pay $75 a month to Comcast because I stopped all TV and everything else and I just use them for internet, okay? And I had to go out and get a streaming service and things like that. We offer that to Westfield, okay? You could offer that to the citizens of Southampton. Provide a good internet pipe to them. They go out and get their own streaming service, their own phone service, and you could benefit from that pipe. Okay, it's a daunting task, but you have control of it, and you'll have control of it for 20, 30, 40 years to come. And it just occurred to me as I was sitting here listening to these, and listen, I've been all over Western Massachusetts in those 20 towns. I've heard this times 20, times 30, times 40. Goshen and Cummington are one of our two towns. They're going to own their own municipal light plant in a couple of years. I don't think they're going to have much problem meeting their obligation when it comes to the high school, quite frankly.
I wish they were here when you said that.
Well, I was thinking of it, but I really don't. Because they're going to be getting income. They're going to have to pay off their plant and things like that. But it's a wonderful way for these municipalities to help their citizens, to make a few dollars at the end of the day, to own their network, right? And be in control of their own citizen rates. And that's what we've been able to provide for Westfield, and that's what we're trying to show these towns, these hill towns in Western Massachusetts.
Has that helped you when you renegotiate the cable contract with whoever, Charter, or whoever you're doing?
It's really the city end of it and not our end. We're
Just
part of the
wondering,
city.
they got competition, you'd think they'd be more competitive.
Yeah.
You'd think.
Well, they compete in other towns, so they pretty much, antitrust doesn't let them favor the towns they compete in versus the towns they don't compete in. So,
Okay.
you know, because there is competition in some parts of Massachusetts, we all kind of do live under the same umbrella with that.
What we offer in Westfield is municipality to municipality. We can show you how to get started.
Okay.
Really, and just kind of help you along the way and things like that, because we know how difficult it is. We went through it. We'd love to show you how to get started and kind of send you on your way and be there to help you, because it is several years out for you before you light up your first customer. But it is a way of answering some of the questions that I heard here tonight. Just a way of kind of raising income and being in control.
So are you offering basically to help us go through the process if we decide to do that?
Sure, yeah, we can help you along the way, sure. You're gonna own it.
Right.
It'll be your network and things like that, and we'll do for you what we're doing for 20 towns in Western Massachusetts, just helping you along the way, municipality to municipality, because we know how difficult it is. That's all.
Great.
And you can guide us in terms of startup funding? I mean, are there grants available through the state? What?
I don't know that right now,
Obviously,
but sure,
if you
know,
stay for
there's,
this conversation, you can see
yeah.
where
Yeah, you know,
we have much laying around.
the best thing to do would be to form a committee inside the town here to kind of look into all of that. We would help that committee kind of look for various ways of doing that. You know, I can't commit to anything now. What we were able to secure for the hill towns really kind of fell in our laps. There was some federal funding that was available. A substantial amount of federal funding became available for the hill towns, for underserved and non-served towns, not for towns that are already served like this one. Right. But we were able to secure that funding for those towns.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Do you have any idea of the rate of return on this over, I mean, you're talking 30, 40, 50 years?
You said 20 years, I think you said.
20 years is our pay down, yeah.
Payback in 20?
Yeah, there's.
And including like infrastructure upgrades and?
Yes.
I mean, because.
It doesn't, I mean, it's a lot to build. It's not a lot to maintain, and it's unregulated, not like the gas and electric business.
Yeah, so that's a reasonable payback period.
And you're bringing local service to your people.
Right.
And that's important.
Did you have to add staff to manage your own
Sure.
light plant? Okay.
Yeah, yep.
It's factored in.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Any questions? That's something we can talk about pursuing and talk with Ed about to get more information? If we're-
Yeah, Ed seemed knowledgeable about it, so he might be able to help us out with this as well.
Okay, so why don't we do that? Okay,
Glad we
appreciate
could
it.
help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for wading through the other.
Thank you.
Ever want to come to see the operation?
I'm sure that's going to be one of the first things we want to do is send somebody down there, probably our town administrator with one of the select board.
In this previous position, we started dealing with
Oh, and Beckett?
Beckett,
Yeah.
because all the towns were building it.
So you're dealing with Bob now and Beckett?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We kind of switched town administrators. He was here temporarily.
I heard Bob's out, now somebody else is in.
Oh, really? Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Is this to do with that?
Yeah.
Okay, you may want to stay just a second. I think Tammy has a question to do with it.
Tammy Willinus, 298 College Highway. As a school committee member, that is something awesome to hear, that they're helping the hill towns, because there are so many kids. They have to drive to the town line to be able to do their homework, because they don't have that capability to have the internet.
And we don't think of that.
We
you know.
don't think of that here, but up in the hill towns,
That's a
this is going to be a huge thing for them, so that's,
So I'm pretty sure that was a thank you.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye. Jim, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay. Next item, resignation from the Greenway Committee, Colby M. Brown. We have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Which brings up the point, we have at least one position on the Greenway Committee. If anybody's interested, let Ed, our town administrator, know. Any other business that can't await the March 5th Select Board meeting? Is there anything anybody can think of they want to go over now? No? Okay. Personal change forms. I know.
Okay, you looking for it? I have it here.
Do you have one there?
Yeah, I have one
Okay,
right
I
here.
brought the other two from.
This is the
FinCom.
real,
Well,
that's a copy.
Yeah. I brought two from FinCom, so we have all three here, so let's go over them. Martha Leamy, ZBA clerk, new duties. She replaces Lucille Dalton, non-benefited, part-time as needed, $16 an hour. I'm going to do all three of these at once unless we run into a problem. The other one,
Could I ask a question then?
sure.
Weren't we supposed to approve the specific details role before we approved the PCF regarding it? Didn't we get some information in the packet that there was an appeal from our police chief to designate a position called the specific details officer? No?
I
There's a
have
letter
a
from,
restricted police officer one here.
Right, but I thought there was, did you all remember seeing information in the packet about a letter appealing to create this position from the police chief?
It's in the packet.
Right, I just didn't know if we were supposed to approve that before we put somebody into that position.
Well, this is it right here. It's attached to the restricted police officer PCF.
Okay, all right,
And I can read that.
okay, thanks.
Okay, no problem. So this, okay, so in that case, tell you what, we're going to go back to Martha's and we'll get a motion
That's fine.
to accept Martha.
Yeah, I move to accept Martha as ZBA
Second.
clerk and the new duties.
Okay, we got a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then I'm going to go to the
Dispatcher,
PRF,
yeah.
which is for Department of Communications, telecommunication dispatcher, a replacement, 2 positions, to reduce overtime expenditures and to replace dispatchers, which are part-time, who have not been replaced. Pay scale is $15.32 an hour. Hours vary. Signed off by FinCom and PPPB. It's a position posting. So this is just for the posting. So can we have a motion to accept the posting?
I move to accept the posting for,
The communications
communicator
dispatcher,
position.
yeah.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, my copy doesn't have a signature by the PQB board and finance committee.
Yeah, I've got it right here. I've got the original. What happened is these just came from FinCom before the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the,
Vote on it?
Yeah, vote
yeah,
on
we
it.
didn't vote it, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, PCF, restricted police officer. This is a memo from interim police chief Illingsworth. Letters to provide the board with my purpose and intent to reestablish a non-contractual police position called a restricted police officer. This position existed in the police department with the intent to restrict an officer's role, conditions, requirements, and expectations. Restricted police officers will be used to fulfill private duty details and will not be used for shift coverage. Purpose of the restricted, in parens, preface to the title is multifold. Classifies the position as separate and distinct from a part-time police officer, which is a position that falls under the terms of the contract between the town and the full and part-time officers. Therefore, uniforming expenses and expenses to meet certain qualification of a police officer will be the financial responsibility and burden of the restricted police officer, not the town. 2, to provide retired officers with the opportunity to earn income. 3, the town assesses a 10% administrative fee for every detail worked in Southampton. When these details do not get fulfilled by police officers of the Southampton Police Department, this administrative fee is not collected. A standard administrative fee for an 8-hour private duty detail is $41.29 for each detail worked. The Southampton Police Department often cannot fill road details and are required to request mutual aid from surrounding towns. 4, will assist in limiting the use of mutual aid resources, whereas the officers working under the terms of restricted police officers will fall under the direct command, direction, and expectations of the Southampton Police Department. Thanks for your attention. If you have any questions, very respectfully, Ian Illingsworth. Okay, so now there's a PCF to hire a restricted police officer. That's the title. It's former police chief Mike Goyette. Over on College Highway. It's going to be non-benefited. It's going to be on-call. It is going to be zero. We're not paying for it. It's strictly coming from the fees that we charge the various construction companies. So we'll pay the restricted police officer out of that, and we'll get our 10% administrative fee that goes back to the town. So there's no cost to the budget on here. So, do we have a motion, then we'll talk about it?
I move to accept
The restricted police officer
restricted
position?
police officer position and Michael Goyette's PCF.
Okay, a second for discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, so does anybody have any question on why this is being formulated or on having Mike Goyette do this?
But
Were they also signed off by the
Pardon?
committees, other committees?
John, do you have the final copy that's been signed off by everyone?
I do.
It's the one I have doesn't. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Again,
no,
this
I
just came from the FinCom
Okay,
beforehand.
that's fine.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay. I was told to protect these with my life and give them back to Ed, so. Okay, Francine, you signed these warrants?
Yes, I did. Okay, it's P 19-32 for $269,296.87. PD 19-32 for $43,206.17. For W 19-33 for $1,326,986.35. And W 19-33A for $1,139.47.
Okay, these are already signed, so no action is needed. Okay, other documents, we took number 20 and 21 and did those already early in the meeting. Minutes to approve. We have two, I believe, that aren't ready yet.
That are listed here?
Yeah, October 16 of 18 are not completed, they're still in draft, and December 20th of 18, not completed, still in draft. So we're going to discuss and approve December 21st, 17, October 30th of 18, January 3rd, January 8th, January 15th, and January 22nd of 2019. Everybody get a chance to look at these?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, can we have a motion to accept the ones I read off?
I move to accept.
Well, I have some corrections.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so
Okay.
here.
So let's, if you can just withdraw that then.
I withdraw.
Okay.
I figured it was for discussion.
Yeah, it could be, you're right. But go ahead, Francine.
Okay, no, just on the December 21st, 2017,
Okay,
joint meeting with the Finance Committee. It lists the Finance Committee members, except for myself. And I'm noted as making a comment later, and so that was one correction. Then there are a couple of typos. We can talk about those later. They're just,
okay.
they don't change the content of
I think
anything
it
on
was Bob
subsequent.
Markle back when
Yeah,
he was
'cause-
here.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what.
okay.
Judy Zadonis is his new administrative assistant.
Okay.
So he was obviously catching up on Bob's old minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, when
All
Bob,
right, well,
when Bob,
these are, going forward, I think I only found minor things. I don't know about anyone else, but I can mark this up and give it to Judy.
nothing
Other
to
than
change the
that,
context.
nothing substantive.
Okay,
There actually is a date that's wrong, that's, I think, important. It puts 2019 down. These are the same minutes, December 21st. So that, it says, to finalize the town warrant for special town meeting on 1/16/19. These minutes are 2017, so it should say 2018. The town meeting 2018.
did you catch that, Kathy?
It's where it says joint meeting with the Finance Committee to finalize town warrant for special town meeting on 1/16/19. It should say 1/16/18.
Right.
This is on the December 21st, 2017?
Yep.
So it's a year ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's a change. So let's just go with this December 21st, 2017. Can we have a motion to accept them as amended by Francine and Rini?
I'm so moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Is there any more comment on the other ones I read off? There's 5 more?
Just typos and a few other things, but nothing content-wise.
Okay,
I'm happy to just send it over to
Right.
the administrative assistant.
okay. I'll send them to Judy.
Yeah.
Okay, so because there's nothing other than spelling errors or grammar errors, can we accept them as written with the notation that those will be sent over for correction?
Yes.
So we need a motion on that.
I
So
move.
Okay, Francine, Rita, you want a second?
Sure.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Got all that, Kathy? If not, let us know.
That's what the video is for.
Okay, calendar announcements, select board meetings. March 5th, 2019, and March 19th, 2019, but also, as we've said a couple times tonight, we have tomorrow at Westhampton Town Hall. Okay, now, open time for the public. Whoever wants to speak, come up here and you can get in line. Don't wait for the person to be finished. Hi, Dan.
Dan Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. Couple points. One was watching the meeting on TV a little while ago, and there were some asks about how we can generate more revenue. So case in point, I just put in Quigley Road, which was just accepted by the town. Thank you for signing that. I was paying $1,800 in taxes for that chunk of land. All right, it's now going to generate $90,000 in taxes. There is no net new children into our school district, and there's a great families that are living there, and it's great economy because there's people in this room that help build those houses. Then there's people that spend the money in town on those houses. So just think about that. Each house that I've built up there generates $10,000 a year in revenue, and the raw chunk of land generated $1,800 a year in revenue. So, you know, it's stopping and discouraging private citizens from developing their land that is not in Chapter 61 is probably not good business practice. So I just wanted to point out the fact that development is good. It feeds this need for money that we continue to devour in this town. The other thing is there's a lot of talk out there about affordable housing, all right? The houses I'm selling up there are selling between $600,000 and $700,000. All right, that's generating $10,000 a year in taxes. You cut that down to a $300,000 a year house, you've now chewed up just as much land. You've got as much of a chance, if not more chance, of bringing children into the town, increasing your school district, and you're cutting your revenue in half. So
Well, can I just say that the fact that there aren't any children in these schools is not, in these houses is unusual, and that these houses still use the town services of police, fire, highway, and so forth. So you can't negate that piece. And the other thing is, we passed a bylaw in this town that every, like, 10th house in a development has to be an affordable house. And so now all the developments are 8 and 9 houses.
Because it doesn't make economic sense, because we passed all green laws in this town to make it so expensive to build a house that you cannot build a house in town for under $400,000 to $500,000. And then you add profit to that, you're at $600,000 to $700,000. So it's impossible to build a house under the green stretch codes in the state of Massachusetts and the ones we adopted here. So again, you guys are taking a balloon and you're squeezing it. It's blowing up over here and you keep squeezing it. You got to understand, if you can't control your spending, you have to allow growth. You can't stifle both. It's a disaster. Okay? And then I'll answer the question about resources. We have a huge fire department. There's 2 ambulances sitting out there. There's only supposed to be 1, and I'd like to know why there's 2. We spent $388,000 for an ambulance because the other one was unmaintainable, and we were supposed to get rid of it, but now we got 2. So if you look at our spend on fire, you look at our spend on police, and what we just talked about school, you can add more citizens into this town. And then so I would argue, would you rather have $10,000 in income per house or $4,000 or $5,000 per house? You have to allow growth. And then the other bad recipe we have here is taking all our CPC funds and buying up all the private land in town. Because again, now you get no tax income from it. You're taking our 3% that we're being taxed. Additional CPC is not free money. That's tax revenue, which again, maybe we should take that, stop paying that, and put that into an override to pay for some of the other stuff.
Don't forget, CPC funds are voted by the Southampton residents.
But it can be unvoted. And we could take that 3% and we can move it over to other things and stop buying up private land.
But
The
that's. our
voters
town-
of Southampton have consistently voted in
Understood.
favor of buying and
I'm just
keeping
giving you
open
ideas. You guys
space.
wanted ideas on how to generate revenue.
Yep.
You shot down business because we got no sewer. You want to be a bedroom community, but you don't allow bedrooms. You can't stop spending. Something has to change.
We have started to change things. We are watching the revenue and expense report every single month here. So I don't know that everybody shares your values, Dan, when it comes to building in this town of $500 to
Then
$1
stop spending.
million
Then stop spending.
houses.
Where are we going to cut our
Yeah,
budget?
yeah, we don't want to, we don't.
I know, but
yeah.
so it's
No,
my time,
well,
and I'm being bantered
but
back.
you get,
I'm
but you
giving a
get 5
suggestion.
minutes, and,
Okay.
but if you
All
got
right.
some other questions.
So
let's
the
do
other
that.
thing is how you deter building in this town. So I'd like to ask a question. When the road was taken,
You're talking about Quigley Road.
Quigley Road, when it was taken, how come the order wasn't signed that night? Weren't the other orders signed that night?
Well, I got a note here from Ed, because he told the highway superintendent that the process wasn't completed until the deed and acceptance was voted on and signed by the Board of Selectmen to take legal possession.
John,
That's
why
a s-
wasn't it signed that night?
No.
That's the question. Why wasn't it signed that night? And when the town voted to take the road, why wasn't
Pretty
it
sure I
signed?
can finish what I'm saying here, Dan, okay? It says, this is the exact same process we followed for Woodmar Lane last year. So if there was an error, it was an error in the process, but from what we know, it was signed.
Okay, let
signed
me just
appropriately.
say how it went. So Nathan Ziegler, myself have houses on that road. We didn't get plowed. We called the highway superintendent. He didn't return a call. His admin called back and said the process wasn't followed, thus for there, we're not taking the road. I said, what wasn't followed? You need to talk to the town superintendent who was out for the day.
Okay.
So, no, the town administrator was out for the day. So we didn't know until the next day, found out. And then I talked to Ed. And Ed never called me and asked me for the paperwork. Ed never called the head of the planning board, who had the paperwork since October, but yet he called Randall and told him not to plow the road. So how is that working towards the citizens? How is that working together? How is that not allowing me to do what is my right, which is develop my land? And how is that not busting my butt? And how is that not putting this gentleman and his 2 young kids in safety when I couldn't even get up that road and had to come and plow it myself when it is a town road because the town voted for it and Ed chose not to do the paperwork?
Well, again, if Ed was here, I could find out his
He
side of it,
apologized
too.
to me.
Okay.
Okay, but then why did he call Randall? And why does Randall's admin know, but we don't know as the town? And why did the planning board not get a call?
You know,
Did Mr. Libery, did the planning board get a call asking for this paperwork at all?
The planning board already had supported it.
Yeah, but I mean.
The question is whether
I'm
or
just gonna-
not the paperwork was ready the night of the town
It
meeting.
was. We submitted it in October, and Mr. Gibson never reached out to myself. He never reached out to the planning board, but he reached out to Randall to specifically say, do not plow Quigley
I
Road.
need to interject. Heather Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. Just to add on to this point, the chairman of the planning board, Mr. Paul Demond, was very dissatisfied with the highway superintendent's response throughout the process, particularly with the road acceptance process, in that it took him nearly 3 months to complete his inspection. Mr. Demond has asserted his dissatisfaction repeatedly, and he also indicated that Randall Kemp knew that the planning board had the required legal documents.
Well, I think that Randall's
was
not here, and
provided
neither
those
is Ed
documents.
Gibson, so, maybe we should put this on
Jim's on the planning board.
I would like to specifically request we have this put as an agenda item.
Sure.
Yeah. Just to clarify this, I don't know of any roads that were accepted by the town at a town meeting, and that evening or within a day, the select board signed off on a deed. It's always usually at the next business meeting. I've always seen that in the past. So I'm just saying on the deed part of it. And I know that there was a clerical error on the deed because they had, when it was filed with the planning board, it had a different board. So they had to change that, I believe. Charlie was on, and I don't know if somebody else was. So there was some errors that we had to fix on it. But I've never seen it where they sign it that night. It's
no
usually at the next
communicated
business
to us.
meeting.
But no communication.
No, Dan, you're way in the back. Well, hold on. You can't.
No one
I'm not
communicated
saying,
to us.
I'm not saying that it couldn't have been signed that night, but I've never seen one signed that night.
And
But
then-
why they didn't communicate to you, I cannot answer.
And then the other thing is there was 3 votes for not to accept the road. One was Mr. Art Lawrence, and one was Randall, and one was Mr. John Palermo. So again, there's a conflict of interest when your highway superintendent takes 3 months to come out and inspect my road, which I paid $9,000 for him to come out and inspect after multiple calls from the chairman, and then he sits there in public and votes against it. There's a problem. And then this whole game playing now with this gentleman's family, too.
Ed's not here, so I'll talk to Ed and we'll put it on a future agenda.
I just want to say that everybody has the right to vote whatever they want to vote in a town meeting.
Right.
And I would request, instead of being CC'd on every single email about this issue, that you deal directly with the town administrator, who the town highway department reports to.
And the administrator reports to you, so I'm asking you to do something.
Right.
Would you please see that this isn't right?
Right. I'm asking you to deal directly with Ed and also the highway department.
Okay, but if he's not effective, I don't have
Guys, we're getting into an argument here. I'll put it on the future agenda. I'll have Ed come here and we can discuss it and we'll go from there. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Nathan Ziegler, 3 Quigley Road. After the last storm, well, we were there for the vote on the 5th, and then we had a storm. I called Mr. Kemp regarding having our road plowed. It was nearly impassable, which again is a public safety issue for myself and my family. I did not get a response. I called Mr. Gibson. He did call me back the following day, explained the process. Yesterday, we had more snow and the road wasn't plowed. I wasn't surprised. However, a little bit later, a police officer came up the driveway of our unplowed road, my half-shoveled driveway, questioning me about snow in the road on Crooked Ledge. Conversation back and forth. He called us entitled. He said, "You people are so entitled." I have the utmost respect for our police officers. But based off of our conversation, I have a feeling that he was directed probably by Kemp or somebody else to go up there and harass my family.
I wouldn't assume that, though.
Well, maybe it's a broad assumption, but it's been one heck of a welcome to the neighborhood.
If you had an issue with a particular police officer, I'd send an email.
I don't. And
Well,
that's
if
what
he
I'm saying.
said
I have
that to you,
the
that's
utmost respect for our officers.
That's not
I work with a
appropriate.
lot of good
Your
officers.
home unsolicited, or did you call them?
I didn't call the police.
No, I'm just asking.
No.
Was it unsolicited? They came down your street,
Unsolicited, he came up the
knocked on
unplowed
your door and
road,
asked you about plowing?
not at the plowing on my road, but the plowing out on Crooked Ledge, because there was some
Really?
snow that was pushed out onto Crooked Ledge Road. But to have an officer in my driveway with my family there questioning us about the plowing issue, again, it just felt, like I said, retaliation for my previous calls the week before to both Ed and Mr. Kemp regarding why our road isn't being plowed.
I would talk to Chief Illingsworth. I'm sure if there's an issue, he'll want to deal with it.
Okay, again, my issue is not with the chief of police. It really is just one of those things of, it should have been addressed. I used to be a city councilor in a surrounding town. I served for 4 years. When we had a warrant or something like that, we signed it at the table. It was done. I would assume that the marijuana laws were signed off at the same time. I didn't see them on tonight's agenda. So why wasn't Quigley
But those
Road
have to
signed
go
off
to the
too?
Attorney General
Yeah,
to be
they-
approved,
they
so
have to-
that's got a process.
Well,
We haven't signed
I'm
off.
just saying, it's just,
They haven't been-
Yeah.
it should have been addressed. It should have been plowed after the 5th.
Yeah, point taken, and
you.
apologize for any issue. You're all set for that same issue, Dan?
It's not the same issue.
Is it about Quigley Road plowing and all that? I really don't want to.
No, it's not. It's about Mr. LeBrie's comment that, no other road has ever been plowed until it's been signed. Or,
That's not what he
okay,
said,
all right,
very
you're right.
clearly.
All right.
The deed has not been signed the night of the town meeting.
Okay.
It's usually the
But
next.
yet, to Mr. Ziegler's point, every other one was, but that night. So that's probably the only one that wasn't signed that night. But the point I'm getting at here.
That wasn't his point. That wasn't his
is
point.
this select board has the ability to plow public roads. And then I went back, or private roads, and I went back and watched you pitch for that to the town. And you were all about the safety of residents.
Certain
all
town roads.
Yeah, about the safety
Private
of the
roads.
citizens. And they paid just as much tax. So where did that go out the road the other morning when no one could get up his road to his family? Why isn't that brought to you? Why are we sent to an answering machine at the town administrator? Why are you not concerned about the safety of those folks? Why is it select safety that you're concerned about? And why do you have that grin on your face? Because you just want me to get out of here.
I'm just waiting for a time to say something.
Please.
First of all, we weren't aware of it at the time. I didn't get a call. We didn't get a call from the administrator. That's his job.
So
It's
you
Randall's job.
empower the highway superintendent to take the safety of that gentleman's family in his own hands and not escalate it anywhere. And he didn't even call anyone back. His admin called us back.
So if you're going to twist words, I mean, there's no sense even discussing it.
I've made my point here.
I am sure you have, yes. Thank you. Now, do we have anybody else for open time for the public? Anybody wants to get up? I know some of you look like you want to talk.
Surely you didn't come for the epic meeting we've had so far.
For the entertainment
It was a
value.
little interesting.
How are you?
Good evening, Eileen Brevillari, 53 Gilbert Road. I'm here tonight to address a few concerning issues regarding the CrossFit gym on 71 Gilbert Road. It has come to our attention that many statements made that were incorrect to the Select Board and to the town people. First and foremost, we, or I, have to the best of our knowledge never lied to the town officials concerning this gym.
Can I ask you a
We
question
as-
first? I'm not sure what side of the question you're on, so are you in favor of the gym there or not?
No.
Okay, I just want to take your comments.
I'm just responding to some correspondence that was sent to the
fine,
town,
yep.
okay, about the residents that are opposed to the gym. We as a group have helped the town with photos on the ongoing gym activity. We are not trying to get our way. We are trying to bring peace and quiet back to the neighborhood. We did not call the town every day and check. That can be checked in your phone records. It's obvious this CrossFit gym was planned long before it was brought to the town of Southampton for approval. The town, as we all know, was told it would be a storage garage, but it turned out to be a CrossFit business operating on a private common driveway in a residentially zoned area. There's an LLC, loans, and letters providing that it was a commercial gym that they were running. As the many neighbors witnessed, over 20 people at one time were there, cars parked everywhere, people running up and down the road, which there are photographs. And there was activity all times of the day. Since the last letter from the town council, when the owner was told the garage was only for his family, they've had up to 7 people in this group exercise. Can you imagine if the town allowed friends? This is clearly a defiant act with total disregard to the town officials of Southampton. It was also stated that a person who lives at the end of the street facing Gilbert Road, which is me, did not know about this till someone knocked on the door. This is absolutely true. But to finish the statement, it's because we retired this year and we spent the summer and early fall in Maine, only coming home every other week, if that, for a night. We may not hear the dropping of the weights or the car doors at 5:15 a.m., but the traffic does affect us. And also, our neighborhood insures the common driveway. We could be fully liable should an incident occur, and they did not have proper insurance. It was stated that this is like having a dinner party or a pool party. Having many people arrive at 5:15 a.m. working out most days of the week with weights banging is not like a dinner party. Also, coming and going all times of the day on a common driveway is not right. It was also stated that the neighbors who reported the gym have wasted enough of the town money on attorney fees. That is absolutely incorrect. The person who opened the illegal CrossFit gym is the one responsible for wasting the town's time and money. He has blatantly ignored the town to cease and desist operation of this gym. The neighborhood has changed because he decided to open a gym with total disregard for his neighbors, not because the neighbors are trying to stop the wrongdoing. I think everyone here should try to understand what goes on in a CrossFit gym. It is not a few people running on a treadmill. What kind of impact would that have on your neighborhood if one of your neighbors decided to do this to you? But the bottom line here, it doesn't make any difference how many people want the gym, how many people don't want the gym. This is a residential zone neighborhood and it is not zoned for a gym. If this were the right thing to do, then why, when they applied for the garage, didn't they apply for the gym? If this is so good and so supposed to be here, why didn't you apply for the right thing? This is clearly a zoning violation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on one side or the other?
Yes.
Excuse me a second. Tom, do you want to come up here? Both? Tom's?
Lori Jarrett, 63 Gilbert Road. I am in support of the exercise group. There is no gym, there's no commercial gym on the street. We work out as a group, as friends, at 5:30 in the morning, yes. There are sometimes 2 or 3 people, there are sometimes 5 or 6 people. We work out inside a building on his property, that is his own, that he's entitled to have friends over to work out in. As a resident of the street, 3 houses up from his, I can say that a lot of the comments that they have said are incorrect, exaggerated, grossly exaggerated. The few cars that do visit the property have to drive by my house. They have never been on any impact. They've never caused any impact to myself. There's no noise disruption to my family, or I don't know how there could be others on the street. But the people that do drive down the street drive slowly. Their music is not loud as they say that there is. They don't slam the car doors, and they're respectful of the people that live on the street. We're entitled to have friends over to our house. If I want to run with my friends, they can come and park in my driveway. We can run together. All activity currently occurring at the resident is permissible by both Southampton bylaws and Massachusetts general law. Some of the neighbors are continuing to suggest that this is a business, which couldn't be further than the truth. There is no exchange of cash. The definition of commercial is an exchange of cash. There hasn't been an exchange of cash for quite some time, which, as you know, many, many, many months ago, he did get some cash for equipment. That stopped immediately, and it has not happened since. The fact that the town is spending money on legal resources is astonishing to me when I sat here for the last 2 hours listening to all this discussion about true town-related issues. I think focus needs to go on that. I don't think the town should be deciding what residents can do on their own property. We don't live on a retirement community, which has also been suggested. We have school-age children on our street. We have houses that are filled with actively working adults. We have driving-age children on our street. A couple houses down, there are teenagers that have recently got their licenses. So their friends are coming down, they're visiting, they drive down the street fast, a lot faster than the older group. I mean, teenagers get their license, they drive quick. But their friends are coming over. That generates traffic. Is that not okay, or is that okay? Once this settles, the attention will likely shift because, yes, there's a lot of conflict going on in our neighborhood right now. That's not going to change. It's just going to shift to something else. So some of the pictures that were sent to the town were taken from my Facebook page of pictures of my family carving pumpkins. How does that define gym activity? How is that even related to gym activity? I, at one meeting, listened to somebody say that there were no pictures of children being taken, yet the town provided us with pictures of my children carving pumpkins in my house. I don't know how that's acceptable. I don't know how that's related to a gym. I don't know how that qualifies the town from determining which people can visit a property or not. But I can tell you that all of the activity that is happening is aggressive. When I approached the person taking pictures, he immediately began to swear at me. There's so much negativity and bullying behavior by the residents that are against the gym that it's my understanding that they have even called the loan officer that granted the construction loan to threaten to sue if the loan officer didn't lose his job. Hearsay, whether or not it's true, but that came from the loan officer himself. So yes, the once peaceful neighborhood is now divided, but I don't know that that's a town issue. Last I knew, the town didn't determine or side with neighborhood quarrels. I'm for group exercise. I'm for people being able to do what they're allowed to do in their house. He's not doing anything wrong. I support him. He's my friend. He's my neighbor. And I support him, and I don't think that the town can make any decision not to.
Great, thank you. Tom, do you want to come up and introduce yourself and give a report on how this started and where it is?
Sure. Well,
without.
Can someone else go from the public?
Go after him?
Well, it sounds like we got a group pro and con, correct? Yeah. So is there anything new to be added?
Everyone should be heard. So.
And I'm asking if anything new to be added?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we let them go first,
okay.
And then you can address that. So who wants to go?
Okay, we both would like to go, but I'll go.
Okay, and you can get behind her if you like, and we just cue it up here.
My name is Karen Hogan, and I live at 73 Gilbert Road with my husband and my son. And Southampton has always been my home. I've lived here essentially my entire life. And I'm very interested in, healthcare. I work as a healthcare professional, and exercise is very important to me. And I've been working out with the Dussaults at 71 Gilbert Road for well over a year now. Initially working out in their attached garage to their house, now working out in the detached garage. If you don't mind, I don't know if you've seen a map of the layout of our street, just sort of for reference where this garage is located.
Yeah, we have. It's across the street from the residence.
Yeah,
About the third on the left.
I don't know
Sure.
if you want to share this.
Yeah, I think we saw it, but I'd be glad to take a look at it again.
Added a little detail.
Thank you.
The orange box is where this garage is located.
Yep.
And the green stars on there are the people that are in opposition.
Well, yeah.
So I just think it's kind of interesting to point out that many of these, I don't know if you've actually been on our road, but they're not within earshot or actually within eyeshot of the gym or the garage. In addition, this is a private dead end street. We're the very last house. We're right next to this garage. And really, there's absolutely no reason for anyone to even come down to that far down on the dead end part of the street unless they're specifically visiting another neighbor. So in my opinion, this entire neighborhood feud was completely non-existent until a couple of complaints were made to the residents at 69 Gilbert Road after 2 of their dogs were continually wandering from their yard, chasing and barking at other neighbors, pets, and guests. The residents of 69 Gilbert Road then, in my opinion, chose to retaliate against the Dussaults and go door to door drumming up opposition to this exercise occurring in their garage, resulting in this current mess that we're dealing with. And then, as previously stated, some of the neighbors didn't even know that this garage was in place until someone went door to door letting them know of that. Some of the neighbors are claiming that this once peaceful retirement home is now ruined because we're exercising in a garage. But in my opinion, this whole neighborhood feud is exactly what's ruining our peaceful community. We live in a young, thriving community. As previously stated, a lot of young children are very, very active in our community. And unfortunately, most of us don't have the luxury of time to come to all of these meetings like some of the people in opposition have. So I feel like our voice has been a little bit, hasn't been heard as much as the others. In terms of the noise concern, I live directly right next door. I don't hear any noise. Certainly from outside, I might hear cars coming down the street, but that's nothing compared to like the dogs barking, the cleaning services, trash services, lawn care services, every kind of service that people have on our street, which they're certainly entitled to have. In terms of the noise complaint, I think noise complaints are a little bit tricky and it can be pretty subjective, so we tried to be as objective as possible and had an OSHA approved decibel meter and actually turned the music up really, really loud in the garage, stepped outside and closed the door, and it was detecting the same level as a typewriter. And then we went to the property line between 69 and 71 Gilbert Road, and the wind was detected louder than anything coming from this garage. They really encouraged the town to actually perform some sort of, objective tests like that and, see for yourselves. I just feel like the neighbors have considered or painted us to be kind of loud and aggressive and jerks, inconsiderate jerks, when really we've been trying to appease them and be very thoughtful and respectful. I also think this is, those in opposition of the garage is really an unhealthy obsession, and it feels very threatening to be a part of this community at this point. They're spying on us, stalking on us most mornings, reporting several mornings to the town with how many people are coming and what vehicles, where they're parking, who's walking where. I know that as town officials, received a picture of me walking to my neighbor's house one morning a couple of months ago. And I'm not sure why the town is allowing this sort of self-policing behavior and threatening behavior to go on. I should feel comfortable on my own street, and I certainly don't at this point. So where do we draw the line? When do we start regulating who can go to someone's house and for what purpose? I feel like dictating who comes to one's property and what activities they participate in, obviously, as long as they're legal, is unconstitutional, and we shouldn't be allowed to do that. I also feel it's very alarming that our town has wasted a significant amount of time, money, and resources at the opinion of a few disgruntled neighbors without actually obtaining any objective evidence or questioning other neighbors on our private road, all in an attempt to take away rights of a property owner while our town is in a financial crisis. Lastly, I feel that this feud goes much deeper than just exercising in a garage. As previously stated, I think this all stemmed from a feud over some noisy dogs and has really spiraled out of control at this point.
Thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
you live in a house beyond this?
Yes,
house?
at the
Okay. At the
very
end
end of the street, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Matthew Dussault from 71 Gilbert Road, the property owner. I'd like to share a couple things that I think are important, like my position on this whole thing. Sure. This has bothered me beyond you guys' imagination, and I have a hard time sleeping over it. Really impacted our life over the last couple months. I have reached out to all of the complaining neighbors at one in October, before they even came to the town. At our street meeting, I sent an email the next day saying, you know, it seemed like you guys, some of you guys, it was a hot topic, and I'd like to talk more about it. You can come over. I don't think that you understand what is actually going on. And I reached out again in between these two emails with a phone call to Ralph Starziak. He's one of the neighbors that is with this group. And I said, I'd love to get together with you guys to listen to your concerns and address them. And he says, it sounds like a good idea. Let me get with the other neighbors. He got back to me the next night and said, sorry, Matt, we can't get together because it might affect what we're trying to do to you through the town. Okay. And so even after that, I still sent emails. You know, at this point, it's me and a friend, my best friend come over, and a neighbor. You know, it's blowing my mind that, you know, I can't have just a couple friends over. It's clearly there's no business. They keep calling it a commercial gym. I think they're confused with commercial grade and commercial activity. It's just an open garage. I store other things for my boat. I store other things in this garage. The garage that's attached to my house, I worked out in it since the day I moved in. Before that, the house I lived at previously, I worked out in my garage. I built another garage and moved the equipment from my attached garage into this garage. So I did not try to go around the town. I said I want to build a garage, and I just did what I was currently doing in my garage, and I moved it to this garage. That's it. And nobody's ever called and asked for my opinion or my story. I couldn't even watch some of the people get up last time and speak about it, just because it's in my eyes so far from the truth. They're calling it a CrossFit gym. It's not a CrossFit gym. It's just a big garage that's open with some stuff in it, and what we exercise. And then even when we don't exercise, Tom Quinlan told me that I had 2 town officials over a couple weekends ago. We were in my house, but we weren't exercising. So I'm being stalked and harassed. It's driving my family insane. Like every little move I make, it seems like I'm being watched. And I just saw him in the bushes last week taking pictures. I have a harassment order on my neighbor because I went in front of a judge, and they said that this is harassment. Here's the harassment order. And then I look over, I think it's my neighbor, and I'm like, what is going on? And it's Tom in the bushes of my neighbor that I have a harassment order on. And it's just, I just want it to be over. I would be willing to go in the room next door and talk with these people and try to come up with some sort of resolution. But as you can see, they've shot me down several times. I would do it right now if they were willing to do it. And I just want it to be over. It's impacted me and my family and my neighbors. I didn't want them to come. Like, this is crazy to me. I thought that you guys would have just said people can have friends over and there's no issues, but apparently it's not the case.
Okay. So it sounds obviously got 2 separate sides, and a lot of the words that people use on both sides, I know the select board hasn't been calling anybody any names or anything. We're just trying to go through the process with Tom Quinlan as the lead here. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to say anything before we have Tom Quinlan come up and go through the process that we're going through? Yes, no?
I'll go after Tom.
You want to go after Tom? Okay, Tom, if you can lead us through the process so far?
Well, I don't know if you really need me to do a time. Thomas Quinlan, Building Commissioner, Zoning Enforcement Officer. There's a cease and desist on this property. So as a zoning enforcement officer, I've issued a cease and desist order for activities at 71 Gilbert Road. The activities at this site have continued in violation of the cease and desist on the town zoning bylaw. The owners of the property have changed the use of the building issued 10/19/2017. See section X-F of the zoning bylaw. If the owners of the property are not in agreement with my enforcement action, then they follow the appropriate process and file a special permit with the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals. In short, a cease and desist means all activity stops.
Right.
I mean, this isn't their house. It wasn't designed. It was brought to me, I'm not taking a side, it was brought to me permitted as a garage.
Right.
I brought Mr. Sears, the plumbing inspector. I mean, there's no proper, your home has proper egresses. You may be in your garage, but it has smoke detectors, it has lighting. This has not a proper egress. I mean, we don't even have the fire department here, but the plumbing inspector will get right out of the plumbing code what would be required if they were to go and get a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals to use it for this use.
But as far as you're concerned, the activity is ongoing. There's a lot of people using it in violation of the use that they applied for.
Yes, there's a cease and desist. It means stop. Yeah. I mean, there's no, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You appeal it. You appeal it.
We'll let you talk.
As a zoning enforcement officer, that's what my determination was when the complaint was put in.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if it's one complaint or 100. On my research, they're in violation. Yeah. And I've gone through the process, and there's a cease and desist. It shouldn't be going. And the people that have the concern with it were concerned that their word wasn't going to be good enough. So yes, the other day I did go for a final time, and so I can prove, that they are still, I mean, you're carrying gym bags, you're in shorts. I don't know how many people at 5:30 in the morning are working on a bike, like Mr. Russo told me. Yeah. I don't plan on saying any of that. It's a cease and desist. It's cut and dry.
And we're proceeding along with that process, right? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Could Mr. Sears just get up and
give
a little?
He can get up in line there.
Right out of the,
but that gentleman was up once, so you get one time, and then he can go again.
Thomas Sears, Southampton Gas Inspector, and Mr. Quinlan asked me some clarification on commercial.
Okay, now, can you not put that on the speaker? That's the microphone, that white thing. Book down or something. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
In 248 CMR in our plumbing code, principle 6, regarding plumbing fixtures, 6A, B, all building and structures other than residential dwellings that are intended for occupancy shall be equipped with sufficient sanitary facilities as outlined in 248 CMR. If it's, like it's been asked, if this is a commercial application, there's plumbing requirements that have to be met. And it's just a process for that.
Right.
But it's just to make clarification on that.
Okay.
With the building department and then with the plumbing code.
So if it's a commercial property, there's certain plumbing and building restrictions.
And just want to make it clear. I mean, there's other sections.
I think everybody understands, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's it, John.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks for coming. Okay, you want to go again?
Yes, please. I have no disagreement with what they're saying. It's not a commercial gym. It's not a commercial property. I know that. I'd like Tom to tell how many people were there, how many cars were there when you were there?
Yeah, Tom, we don't want to get into it.
Oh, okay. Well, there was, I would say in the last month, we might have had no more than 4 visitors at a time.
Is this at that 5:15 in the morning?
Well, well, less than that at that time, but on a Saturday or Sunday morning. So this, the building doesn't even get used more than four days a week at this point, 4 or maybe 5 days a week. But there's multiple days where it doesn't get any use. It's only storage.
But wasn't it also, I think what we heard that in the afternoon. Is your wife maybe has friends over and does that too?
She does maybe 1 or 2 days a week. I mean, very extremely limited, and she's by herself. At this point, she's by herself. If one neighbor doesn't come, maybe another one, but it's not a routine thing. It's like when we call to have friends over, when we ask to have friends over. It's not like a set thing. And there's zero noise. There's no noise. And at this point, I can't go in this property with anybody, or else it feels like I'm breaking the law, and it's just does not seem right. And
Technically, you would be, yes.
well, the cease and desist, it says cease and desist for a commercial gym business.
Right.
Does not say cease and desist for the building, doesn't say anything other than a commercial gym
It says
business.
intended use.
As a,
Intended use.
Yeah.
on the cease and desist that I received, it says a commercial gym business. We are extremely far from a commercial gym business. It's nothing.
Our understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, the permit was just for a garage, period. Then you took a commercial loan out, and then you had a fitness where you're selling product.
God, not even
Any of that accurate?
exaggerated beyond belief.
It's on video that you went in front of the Conservation Commission and said you were putting in a detached garage for storage.
Correct, and I store, right now, I'm storing plenty of things in this garage, right,
Okay.
as we speak.
So
I'm
that you're
storing
not, it doesn't
plenty of
sound like
things.
to me that you're using it for the intended use.
I just said I store boat
Did you go in
supplies.
front of, did you go and get a commercial loan? Did you have a business that you solicited funds from close to 80 people for the purposes of a commercial gym?
That is so, no ma'am, no
So you
ma'am.
never accepted any money from anybody to have a gym in your property?
To have a gym on my property? No, I did not. I had some people that my daughter plays soccer with.
So you never accepted any money for people to come in and work out on your property, in the gym, in the garage?
Well, I am going to be careful because it's a,
No, just asking, because that's what we were hearing, and I
Right,
just wanted to be
before-
clear that we
prior to
support our
October.
building inspector, and we were told
too, I like-
by people that you accepted money for people to come and work out at your garage.
so before October, when was the cease and desist? Prior to October, I received minimal.
Isn't there a 5-minute rule? Didn't you pull me off and not allow me to talk about Quigley
At the
Road?
discretion of the chair, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, just making sure.
Go ahead.
Which would be, people felt bad, friends felt bad. And then I immediately stopped this building did not go up for any of those intentions. I personally love to work out. I have for the majority of my life. And I built it for myself, and I'm proving that right now by using it by myself. This morning, by myself.
So just to follow up on a question Rini had, did you apply for a commercial loan for that building?
I applied for a loan because I have a nutrition practice and I'm looking at an office building. That loan that there was in question is no longer on the property. It is paid for. Once I heard that loan is closed, I closed it last year.
But initially you did that, which is part of the reasoning we're here.
Well, it was like a construction loan.
Well, a commercial loan is different from a construction
It
loan.
was a construction loan.
Well, I guess the information we heard, and I don't have anything in front of me. So this is just some of the stuff we heard to go forward with this process. So we have a cease and desist, which is active. So the town is pursuing it, and we got to work with Tom in order to take that away. It can't be having all these people there.
It's not all these people.
Again, from the other side, I mean, I'm not there. I went down the road. It's a nice building. It has curtains in it. So to me, it didn't look like a garage, but curtains are nice too. I don't know.
Well, there's only curtains because of the invasion of privacy with the
people
pictures.
exercising, yeah.
No, from the other side. But.
Okay. But, yeah, so we got two sides to it, and our building commissioner is going through the process, and we fully support. Anybody else want to say anything?
You said something, I'm not sure I understood it correctly. You said that there were never any more than 4 people in there at any one time.
In the last month.
Does it happen multiple times a day?
No.
Once a day?
Once
I'm trying
a day,
to get a sense.
It's me and my wife both work out. We exercise, okay? And so right now, like last week and the week prior, I work out Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning at 5:30. If you want it, you're asking specific questions.
No,
so I have to
I'm
answer
asking
it.
because you said there were never any more than 4 at any one time, and I'm just saying, how many, that's what I thought I heard you say, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I would have to.
And I was
think
just
of that, but
asking
no.
if that was the case, then were there multiple occasions, multiple times during the course of one day, that there would be not more than 4 people in there at one time?
He was saying
So
4 to 5
sporadic.
mornings a week, and the wife
Is that what
does
you
some in
said?
the afternoon, yeah, a little while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I asked, okay,
But it's,
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I can't be sure of the day.
You have to
Eileen Brevillari, 53 Gilbert, sorry. I can't be sure of the day, but there were just recently 7 people there at one time.
Okay.
It was Saturday or, I don't know. But as far as the loan officer, I did speak to the loan officer. I didn't threaten him, I was gonna sue him though. But I did ask him why he gave a commercial loan on a private street that is not zoned for business. I asked, why would you give a loan to that? And he said to me that he applied for the gym and that he was not gonna use it for a full year till 19 because he was gonna be doing the construction. And he said to me that he was gonna get it rezoned. And at that time, because I guess they evaluate you, I don't know a lot about commercial loans, but I guess they evaluate you every year and you have to look at your taxes and all that things. And he said at that time, this May, they would look at his taxes or whatever they look at, and they would evaluate it. That's why when it's under 100,000, they don't really care. He said, to be honest, I don't want to sound like it's not a lot of money, but he said business loans under $100,000 do not, get the
full
big,
review?
yeah, they don't,
Yeah.
they're not as important.
Okay.
So that's what I was told.
Okay, thank you. We got a lot of hearsay here, so we got to take it in that context on both sides, yeah. Anybody else want to say anything?
I just wanted to conclude.
Yep, if nobody else is, go ahead.
Right or wrong, there's a cease and desist.
I agree.
So I feel that, I'm not taking a side, that they're wrong by continuing to use it until there's an appeal or a decision otherwise.
Right.
And that's, what the town's stance is.
Yep.
And, it doesn't matter if there's, one friend. It's, right now, it's posted.
Yep, and we've all discussed it, and we're all in agreement that we support you going forward and doing what you feel is proper.
I'm Joy Talifer from 67 Gilbert Road, and I know we all have a busy life too, but we made it a point to be here several meetings in a row to explain to you our side of this story. It's a shame that it's gotten to this point. Honestly, I'm so upset I'm having a hard time talking about it. It's too bad, but it started out where there was just a few people. Then it grew, then it grew, then it grew. Then when we finally started complaining, now it's cut back. Please do not allow this to continue, because what's going to happen is, there may be a few friends there now, maybe there will be a few people there now, but it's going to be just like it was before. A gym doesn't belong on our street. I don't care whether it's a small neighborhood or an adult neighborhood, whatever you want to call it, it's a family neighborhood. A gym doesn't belong there. It's not zoned for it. It's complicated everything. You really need to help us on this. That's why we came.
Okay, thanks. And so, you want to say something again?
Carol Ginketti, 61 Gilbert Road. Now, the cease and assist, is that because the town has determined this to be a business?
It's because the building commissioner has gone out there and looked at the use and what the permit was and everything. You can probably explain it better, and decided that it wasn't appropriate.
Okay.
And that's why.
Okay, so it wasn't appropriate for the zoning we have in our neighborhood then?
Or the structure.
Okay, okay, okay. I just wanted to clarify, I'm trying to listen to all the sides. And Matt, we did listen to you at our association meeting. It was all brought up, everyone had a chance to talk. Back in October, we have a yearly association meeting, and everyone showed up at it, and this was brought up for discussion in the gym. And there was, again, couldn't come to a meeting of the minds because the people that were affected by it felt it was a gym. So that's when we brought it forward to the town to let them investigate, because we didn't know what was going on, because there were two sides. So that's where we're at now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And it's too bad. It sounds like the street is just split, and there's a lot of tension with the neighbors, which, it's a small, beautiful street when I went down it, so it's too bad. Pardon?
We'll never go back.
Well, hopefully, things get done. You want to put anything else? Last
Absolutely, hey, I'll cut you neck. Beautiful. Not a
last chance here. No sales going on at the meeting. Mr. Hogan.
Hey, everyone. Ben Hogan.
Okay, we gotta continue on here. Hold on.
Ben Hogan, 73 Gilbert Road. I live at the end. I live next to Mr. Dussault. I have a detached building on my property, and it's for private residential use. I store an antique truck there that I work on it, and I have friends over that sometimes bring a car over. I help them change a tire because I have tools there they don't have. Am I required to have plumbing, proper fire inspection? Are residential buildings that are not attached to their house? Because the plumbing inspector came up and said that there's in the building inspector about fire code, about plumbing, stuff like that. So is the town going to start regulating how people can set up their?
I'm going to guess that if you have people over 4 or 5 times a day and you're charging them to do your car or you're working on it, that would be a permit. Where if you have
But if there's no charge, I'm just saying if there's no charge.
If you have a friend come over once in a while, I don't think that's.
But what's the limit? How many friends can you, is the town going to say how many friends you can have over a day, how many days a week?
The building commissioner is going to make that determination based on.
fees and all.
Right. Yeah.
That's not the
If
reality.
a friend came over, I'm just saying, if a friend came over and I worked on his car, I used my equipment, I spent my money on, and he wanted to give me some money back for the equipment I've spent and used, is that illegal to pay friends back if they're, I'm just.
That one-time use, I'm going to say no.
No, but if it's multiple times.
I don't have to worry about that.
I'm just wondering, what's the limit going to be? when is?
I don't think there's a set in stone. Again, it was for a storage garage, commercial loan, all these other things.
Right, but in a storage garage, is there a list on what you can't store in there? And there's a list on who?
Not hazardous waste or something like that. I'm sure there is.
Right, no,
I see you're trying to split a.
No, it's the towns, I talked with, sorry, Matt, I don't want to throw in there, but I've talked with Matt multiple times, just as friends, and we both agree there's an extreme on both sides. One extreme is it not happening at all.
Right.
The town actually saying someone can't work out with their friends, have friends over on their residence. The other extreme is a commercially licensed operating gym.
Agreed.
The town's going to one extreme now with the cease and desist, saying that someone can't have people over at their house on their private property in a building that they built to share with their friends. The town's over here on an extreme, so.
Again, that's an opinion, and the building commissioner,
no, it's an
we feel
extreme.
has gone through the proper process, and we support him in doing that, and there's an appeal process, that's the next step.
It's not simple. I tried 3 times.
And no one's come to us. The town's never come to the other side. I know Lori reached out to the town administrator because we heard one side had a meeting with the town administrator, and she reached out via email. Hey, we would like to come and talk. She's never been approached for someone to hear our side. It's only been one side, and then because we're all busy, we all have busy lives, and finally it's just enough's enough, which is why we're actually showing up now, because this is getting out of control, and the town being on the extreme of limiting who you can have and what you can do on your private property in a private building is just not right.
Okay, thanks. Same topic, Tammy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway. With a cease and desist, does that mean the actual owners cannot work out in it? Or is it anybody?
It's a question for the building commissioner.
In my opinion, it's like a stop work order, everything stops.
Okay, thanks. I'm almost afraid to say this. Anybody else?
One more thing. Carol Ginketti from 61 Gilbert. As you can see, it's very divided.
Yes.
So I am happy that we do have you guys and the building inspector mediating this somehow. So whatever you decide, hopefully we'll all come to terms with that. Because if it's left between either one of us sides, we just can't.
You're not going to come to an agreement.
We can't come to a meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
So I still, throughout this whole process, I don't know what I can I go in my building? Can me and my wife go in the building?
Well, it sounds, you have to get up there, Tom, but that's going to be last, yeah.
by right, you should have stopped right away with everything. It's like when you're doing.
I just need an answer, please. I haven't gotten an answer throughout this whole process.
Your answer was to stop and go in front of the zoning board of appeals. That was the first, 3 months ago. And that's the process.
Is it Lucy?
Yeah, Tom, if you're going to go up to the microphone
At the
too.
town clerk? You can ask the town clerk. I tried 3 times to come in and file, because I just wanted to appeal the cease and desist. I didn't want to apply for a special permit or anything. No, see, on the cease and desist, it says I can't appeal the cease and desist. That's all I wanted to do was appeal it.
Okay.
And I didn't want to apply for a special permit.
So what did
I
the
don't
town
need-
clerk say about appealing the cease and desist?
They didn't know anything. Oh, and you have to talk with Tom. Tom, you can see his stance. So it's not a simple application.
Town council said the appeal is through the ZBA. That's your appealing the decision.
Okay.
You go in front of the ZBA.
Yeah. Okay, so let's find that out after and we'll confirm it, but it sounds like that's the way to go.
But I still don't know.
But that's,
I can't know.
we'll get back to you and give you something. Do we have your email or?
Yeah.
It's on the page you gave
On the- Okay, it's on there? Okay.
No, his name is there.
So I think we heard from everybody a couple times here. So I'm going to say we go on to the next topic. Thank you, both sides, for coming, and we'll look into the appeal process for you and get back to you.
John,
And
his name is on there, it doesn't show his email. It shows everyone else's, but not his.
Okay. So, Matt, if you don't mind writing your email on one of these, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Here you go. Okay. So once we're done this, we're going into executive session, and we won't be returning. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you all for coming. Tom, thank you for taking the time out. Okay.
Yeah, I think you do. Yeah.
Unless you think so. Okay, so we're going to go into executive session, 2 sessions. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. This is on 71 Gilbert Road zoning enforcement. Second executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 7, to comply with or act under the authority of or any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Approval of executive session minutes, January 8th, 2019 and January 22nd, 2019. We will not be coming back into open session. I need a motion to go in executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Fishman, aye.
Okay.